This is Adam Graham from Pretty Much the Present, bringing you a week of old-time radio podcasts. These episodes were originally released back in 2011, and we're releasing them here pretty much as is, with only some extraneous bits such as the opening from all of the episodes after the first episode removed. Because these are old, it should be noted that any offers or promotions mentioned in the episode may not be valid unless they're currently mentioned on the Great Detectives website. Here now is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you've got a comment, please feel free to email me, box13@greatdetectives.net. You can cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. Appreciate getting your vote every month. And follow us over on Facebook, facebook.com/radiodetectives. Well, before we get started with today's episode of Barrie Craig, I want to encourage you to be sure and get a copy of Tales of the Dim Night. Tales of the Dim Night is available at dimnight.com. It's a great superhero comedy novel with a lot of homages paid to the great superheroes of the Golden Age and a lot of fun. You can purchase a copy or even read sample chapters at dimnight.com. Well, it's time for today's episode of Barrie Craig, a particular favorite of mine, The Case of the Borrowed Knife.
One thing about marriage, folks, many are made in heaven, but there are others that are unmade by the fourth application of the vow, unto death do us part.
The National Broadcasting Company presents William Gargan in another transcribed drama of mystery and adventure with America's #1 detective, Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
Barrie Craig speaking. That's the name, Barrie Craig. You rent an office on the 3rd floor of the old Mercantile building. You've got a city license which says you're a confidential investigator. So, most of your life, you sit around and wait. Some of the guys in the business hire blondes and call them secretaries. Others confide in cab drivers, bend bartenders' ears, even buy dictating machines. Maybe it helps them forget that they're the loneliest guys in the world, because nobody really talks to you. The suspicious wives, the frightened parents, the desperate kids who walk into your office never even see you. To them, you're a license, a pair of ears, and sometimes a gun. Nothing human. And after a while, maybe you're not. It's open.
How do you lock this door?
There's a thing underneath the doorknob there. You slide it over.
Oh, yeah. You're Barrie Craig.
Yeah.
You're not doing very well, are you? I could write my name on the dust on your desk.
What name would that be?
Wilma Lord.
How do you do, Miss Lord?
Mr. Craig, have you ever killed anyone?
Not for a fee.
Will you answer a question about the weather?
I don't know much about the weather. Well, why'd you lock the door behind you, Miss Lord?
I can't have anybody see me here.
There's a woman comes around a couple of times a week. I'll speak to her about the dust.
Oh, that's not... I'm going to marry a man named John Waring.
Uh-huh.
He's older than I am, a lot older.
It's a question of taste.
He's rich.
Sweetens the taste.
We're going to be married in a few weeks. I want nothing to happen to that marriage. I'll hire you.
Cupid Craig, with a dollar sign in front of the Cupid. What do you think might happen?
Death.
Something wrong with Waring's health?
You've heard of murder, haven't you?
I've heard of it. Whose murder, yours or Waring?
Who?
The door's locked. Whose murder?
I can't say. Is there another way out?
Back of the water cooler. Leads to the back hallway and the fire stairs.
I'll phone you.
Sure. Yeah?
Get out of my way.
That gun a little heavy for you?
I said,
Okay. Well?
the dame. Where's the dame?
You don't look too good.
Where is she?
Got a name for her?
The dame. Walked in here, I seen her.
And now you want to take another look?
Wanna give her back a knife? Knife?
The floor stopped him. I kicked the door shut behind him. The knife he'd mentioned was angling out between his shoulder blades. I didn't want anybody to confuse him with a client. The homicide squad arrived and went to work. I don't like watching the boys. They're too smooth. I start thinking of all the stiffs they practiced on. I shut my eyes.
Are we boring you, Craig?
Lieutenant Rogers, I've seen it all before.
Too bad. If only we could work out an entirely new approach. Then perhaps you'd watch us,
Stop being so tough, Trav. Everybody's forgiven you for having gone to college.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Craig, the story's no good.
The only one I've got on hand.
I'll tell you why it's no good. The punk there with the knife in his back was on the Harry Otis payroll.
Oh?
Wilma Lord is on the Otis payroll.
Must be a large payroll.
Among his varied and largely illegal activities, Otis also runs a supper club over on the east side. The Gilded Lily.
Mm-hmm.
You can have Wilma Lord for supper there 6 nights a week and twice on Sundays.
It's too early for supper.
The last couple of months, Otis has been very busy. Covering up.
The Crime Commission?
The Crime Commission. Mr. Otis is a very large target for them. He's been doing his best to shrink recently. Woman Lord could have come to you because she planned to concertize with the commission and wanted protection.
Why me?
You're big. You're good-natured. And, well...
I'm stupid?
No. But you like to believe people when they give you a chance to.
What about the Waring angle? Did she pick him out of the phone book?
There is no Waring angle. John Waring happens to be a distinguished philanthropist. That means a guy with so much money he can give some of it away.
Thanks for the translations. I still believe Wilma Lord's story.
Why? Because she's young, beautiful? Because she looked you straight in the eye when she told you all?
No, Trav. Because she was nasty. Homicide wound up and went away. One nice thing about it, after they were through, the office no longer needed dusting. The clock in the church tower across the street made noises. So, after a while, did my stomach. But I was waiting for a phone call. Maybe the cops would get Wilma Lord before she could reach a phone. Maybe Wilma Lord had no intention of phoning me. I've been a sucker before. I prefer it to being a wise guy. So I listened to the bell, ignored my stomach, and was rewarded. Hello?
Mr. Craig?
Yeah,
Late, I thought you might have gone home.
I'm still here.
You're alone?
Yeah,
I've got to see you. That is, if after what happened you want to.
I want to. I always believe a client.
I didn't know you'd taken the case.
Where do we meet?
Well, not here at my apartment. It's too dangerous.
Wait a minute. Would there be a couple of cops sitting on your lap by any chance?
No.
Why not? They've got an alarm out for you.
Well, the apartment isn't in my name. Look, let's make it Park, the 67th Street entrance, in an hour.
The park in an hour. Oh, Miss Lord.
Yes.
Don't bring a friend. I locked the office door. Nothing in the office worth stealing, but this way, maybe I could tempt a burglar. I felt underprivileged. I'd never been burgled.
Hey, Mr. Craig.
Never mind the glad greetings, Jake.
Terrible tragedy you had, Mr. Craig.
That's what I meant. Stop licking your chops and let's ride downstairs, huh?
Terrible tragedy. Lieutenant Rogers says he didn't bleed much.
You take the lieutenant's word for it. By the way, Jake, did the corpse come up in the elevator?
Lieutenant asked me that.
A coincidence. Did he?
Yeah. Come up in the elevator. Didn't have that knife in his back at the time, though.
Maybe the elevator was too crowded.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
How about the girl? She come up the same trip?
Lieutenant asked me that, too.
Whatever made you give up that farm in Vermont, Jake?
Got tired of watching the Four Seasons. What I told the lieutenant was maybe she did come up in the elevator, but I didn't see her.
Uh-huh. How about opening the door?
And if she was young and pretty, like the lieutenant said, why, I'd have spotted her.
Sure, after all your experience with the Four Seasons. Jake, how about...
Oh, I keep forgetting. Mr. Craig.
Yeah?
In case anybody stops around and asks for you, what'll I tell them?
Tell them I'm out checking a season. Good night, Jake. The park was close enough so I could take a couple of hamburgers aboard at Willie's wagon. A couple of hamburgers and a cup of the stuff Willie calls coffee. Willie keeps his coffee urn shined. I was facing it. What I saw in the urn looked like what you see in the distorting mirrors in the Coney Island Funhouse, except not so funny. Willie!
You got a complaint? Take it up with the mayor.
Take a look over my left shoulder, Willie.
Oh, it's gorgeous. You want I should pin a gardenia on it?
Somebody looking into the wagon had his face plastered against the window. I don't want to turn and tip him off.
Huh? You hitting the pipe again?
No face?
I bet you inhaled, too.
Oh, forget it, Willie. You must have ducked. Here. Take that up with the Bureau of Internal Revenue.
Boy, you throwing dough around. What's the matter? You had a horse in the fifth?
No. I had a corpse in the third. The park was half a dozen blocks over and west. I couldn't spot a tail on me, which didn't mean a thing. Good tails don't get spotted, especially working on me. I'm easy to keep in sight from a long way off. Nobody had moved the park around. The 67th Street entrance looked cozy and dark. I tossed a mental coin, came up heads, which meant I should go home and spend a few hours asleep. Then I cheated. I went on into the park. An investigator's job is a funny one. Either you play it hard and believe nobody, which is fine. It's safe. You stay out of trouble. Maybe after 10 years, you're growing ulcers because nobody likes you, but an ulcer never killed anyone yet. Or else you believe people. Then you've got trouble. You're not smart. Except maybe it's not a choice. Kept getting darker. Not a choice because it depends on the way you're built. The way I'm built, you stick your neck out. I did. Only warning was a slide of feet on the gravel path. If you're hit on the head hard enough, you get knocked out. All you remember afterwards is getting up. It's a memory you're willing to trade cheap.
The guy looks like he is returning to us, Mr. Otis.
He might have fractured his skull, Peeper.
Private eyes have got very thick skulls. All I know is I read about them all the time. Private eyes are always getting bopped on the skull. It don't bother him.
It bothers me.
Peeper, help the gentleman. Never mind. Mr. Craig.
I've got a headache.
I'm sorry Peeper is so enthusiastic.
Send them over a little closer to me. I'll calm them down.
I'm afraid not, Mr. Craig. Peeper is armed. He was acting on instructions from me.
Was he supposed to bring me in alive? I'm not that funny. How did he find me in the park?
He trailed you there from your office.
Uh-huh.
Rather a cold, unpleasant night, Mr. Craig. You often walk in the park.
I managed to get there from time to time.
You wouldn't have been meeting anyone there?
I could use a couple of aspirin.
Peeper was perhaps a little impatient.
How was I supposed to know he had an appointment?
Peeper.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Otis.
Well, Craig?
I could still use those aspirins.
I see. Well, perhaps it isn't very important. What's more to the point, Mr. Craig, you had a visitor this afternoon.
I had lots of visitors, most of them in uniform.
I'm referring to the gentleman who preceded the police.
The gentleman whose untimely death was responsible for the visit. You didn't happen to kill him by any chance?
The cops didn't think so.
They might be prejudiced. Also, you may have pleaded self-defense.
Otis, you know better than that. A man like you has pipelines to the department.
Very well. A question, then. What was the gentleman...
You mean the punk with the knife in his back?
...doing in your office?
He was dying there. Hey, I'm hearing music. Ringing in my ears?
A rather good little orchestra. They'd be insulted by your description.
Don't tell them about it. This wouldn't happen to be the Gilded Lily, would it?
You know the place?
Sure. Some of my best friends have had supper in it.
What was Jimmy doing in your office?
A punk? He might have been looking for a confidential investigator.
Oh? For what purpose?
To help him find his lost innocence, maybe.
Beeper.
I'm not joking. What job was he doing for you?
What makes you think he was doing anything at all for me?
He was on your payroll.
Indeed.
The cops told me. They're blabbermouths.
Pity about the civil service. Things would be so much easier otherwise.
You could buy more for less, huh?
You're not going to tell me why Jimmy came into your office?
I didn't say that. I'll tell you why. He was looking for the owner of the knife in his back.
Oh?
He never got around to telling me who it was. Would you like some information?
Very much. At what price?
We'll discuss that later. The information goes like this. Your boy came up in the elevator. He didn't have the knife in him then. He did have when he got to my office. So...
Someone presented him with a knife someplace between the elevator on your floor and your office.
Yeah. One thing more. It wasn't right outside the office door.
Oh?
He got it near the elevator. He went down. There were a couple of bloodstains on the hall floor indicating that. He went down, stayed down for a while, pulled himself to his feet, and made it to me.
Why?
You didn't like my previous suggestion?
No. Craig, whom did Jimmy follow to your office?
It'd be nice to know, wouldn't it? I mean, for me. Because you know, don't you?
You mentioned something about a price for the information. What price?
What do you think about matrimony?
I've no time to discuss philosophy at the moment.
Or philanthropy?
Beeper.
Yeah, Mr. Otis.
Up until this moment, I've been considering Mr. Craig an honest, if somewhat stupid man. Now I'm not so sure.
Yeah?
Either of his honesty or of his stupidity.
I can get you references on both counts.
I would like to be sure, Beeper.
I take him apart?
Unless Mr. Craig would like to tell us another story.
I'm out of stories.
You're in trouble, however. Beeper, we want Mr. Craig to explain his remarks about matrimony and philanthropy.
Yeah, hold it, Craig. I wouldn't mind plugging you in a leg, say. Give me an excuse. You're gonna stand and take it nice? Okay. Take it. I hope the gun barrel don't scare you permanent. How about putting your arms behind your back, huh? Gonna start getting painful soon. Thanks. Now, hey, who? Opportunity knocks.
No, Otis. I've just inherited a gun. Beepers. You weren't expecting company. Mr. Otis, I've been knocked unconscious. I've been pistol whipped. Maybe I'm sore.
I wasn't expecting company.
Yeah, that's the reason Beeper was startled. All right, open the door. Let's see who it is.
Hello, Mr. Otis.
The Marine. Hello, Trav.
Hi, Craig. Mind if I come in?
The office belongs to Otis.
You're holding the gun.
That belongs to Beeper.
Beeper? He's lying down. Tired?
He ran into a doorknob. Have a gun on him.
Thanks. Who knows? Maybe he has a license for it. We'll see.
Exactly what do you want here, Lieutenant?
We've had the place staked out. Nobody we were interested in showed up. I got the report that a big man was carried in. Turns out it was Mr. Craig.
That's how it turns out.
The place staked out? And you're looking for...
If nobody minds, I'll get out.
In a hurry, Barry?
I'm late.
For what?
A date.
Now, wait a minute. Way it looks, you were slugged and brought here.
I guess it does look that way.
You could prefer charges.
It was all in fun.
That welt across your face doesn't look funny.
One of the reasons I'm in a hurry.
What?
I want to have the nasty little bruise kissed away. Lieutenant Rogers didn't argue with me. He wanted conversation with Otis and Beeper. Nobody had mentioned Wilma Lord yet. Not Otis, not Trav. But they were thinking of her. So was I. I tried the park. A couple of hours had died since the appointment, but I had to make sure. I made sure. Maybe Wilma Lord had been waiting for me. Maybe not. Either way, she wasn't waiting anymore. Trav would annoy Otis for a while. He had nothing to hold him on. He had nothing to hold Beeper on. For a while, Otis and Beeper would be busy with the lieutenant. After that, they might be busy about something else. I remembered Trav's definition of a philanthropist. I could use some money. My name is Barrie Craig.
Yes?
You're John Waring?
I am.
Mind if I come in?
It's rather late.
So late you sent the butler to bed, huh?
Well, that is hardly... Who did you say you were?
Barrie Craig.
Should I know you?
Yes.
Why?
Because you're a philanthropist.
Good night.
I didn't finish. Because you're a philanthropist about to get married.
Come in.
Thanks.
In here, if you please. Now then. Your name is Barrie Craig. You're a reporter, perhaps?
Not exactly.
Then why your interest in my...
Marriage? I've been hired to make sure it goes through on schedule.
Hired? By whom?
Your fiancée. Didn't I use the right word?
You mean Miss Lord?
How many girls were you planning to marry?
Craig, I permitted you to enter my home because you seem to know about my marriage. I didn't expect you to insult me.
I'm sorry. Blood gets on my nerves.
Blood?
A man was murdered in my office today.
And that's why...
That's why what?
Nothing. This man who was murdered, had he any connection with...
Your marriage?
Yes.
What do you think?
I can't think anything about it. I'm confused.
So confused you haven't thought of offering me a drink?
I beg your pardon. Oh.
Yeah. I could almost think you were expecting me. That's 2 glasses you've got sitting on that coffee table. With the drinks in them. One's rye by the color. The other?
Mr. Craig, you're in my home.
Looks like creme de menthe. A girl's drink.
I suppose it's too much to expect the behavior of a gentleman from a confidential investigator.
Yeah. We're the sorted type. I had an appointment with Miss Lord.
She kept it, didn't she?
Why don't we ask her?
Ask?
Nice drapes you've got. Pity they don't quite reach the floor.
Now, look here, young man.
Never mind, John.
Hello, Miss Lord.
Hello.
Did you decide the park was too cold at this time of the year?
What made you come here?
You wouldn't be holding up in your apartment, listed in your name or not. The cops are bright nowadays.
Well...
Where else would you duck for cover? It was simple. Lucky for me, it was simple. I get confused easy.
What do you want?
You hired me to do a job. I believe you. I always believe my clients. Sometimes I'm suckered, sometimes not. Because sometimes clients don't expect to be believed.
I resent all this...
Don't be in too big a hurry, Mr. Waring. Miss Lord was afraid that the marriage was going to be interrupted by murder.
Murder?
She didn't get around to telling me whose murder, yours or hers. Because another murder happened to somebody else.
I didn't...
Somebody on Harry Otis's payroll. Whose idea was this marriage?
I asked Miss Lord to be my wife.
And she said yes. Why?
I love... You don't have to laugh at me.
Harry Otis. You were on his payroll, too, Miss Lord. The Crime Commission was getting ready to ask him questions about his business, his tie-ins with officials, his, backers.
I must ask
you... You were going to say leave. Let's pretend it was explained. Wilma Lord's young. She's beautiful. Maybe she could have wrangled a marriage offer out of you anyway. But her working for Otis can't be a coincidence. Sure you asked her to marry you. After she told you she knew about your connection with Otis.
My connection?
Financial. Dollar bills don't have pedigrees on them. That's a shame. How many of the dollar bills making up your bank account came out of Harry Otis's dirty enterprises?
This is absolutely unwarranted.
No. Up until 5 minutes ago, it was a guess. A stupid guess. Because I couldn't figure any other reason for the whole deal. Now it's not a guess anymore.
It's not a guess anymore.
Hello, Otis. I've been expecting you. And the gun.
That's nice. Beeper's outside with a gun, too.
And the car? With the motor idling?
Another stupid guess.
Sure.
The stupid ones give the most trouble. If you'd had brains enough, Craig, you'd have stayed out of this.
I couldn't. I was hired by Miss Lord.
I had to, Harry. I was
I
afraid.
had you set up. Waring was going to marry you, so you couldn't testify against him. Why'd you bury the knife in Jimmy's back?
I didn't.
I had him on you all the time.
Would you have had any reason for killing him, Otis?
What reason?
Not even a stupid guess.
Otis,
Yes.
this squabbling, it's unpleasant and a waste of time.
Meaning what?
Whatever Miss Lord did or didn't do, Mr. Craig is now in a position to inform the Crime Commission of...
Our business association?
Yes, that would be disastrous. Not only for myself, but for you as well. I hesitate to suggest anything violent, but...
But what choice have we got?
Precisely.
No, there's been...
Shut up, Wilma. You've still got Jimmy's death to account for.
Oh, you...
Miss Lord,
What?
don't drink that.
What are you talking about? Took my drink away.
You in a hurry to die?
The man is insane. Otis.
Yeah, Otis. The man looking for a murderer.
What was wrong with the drink?
Another guess. A solid one this time. Wilma Lord's wanted by the police for the murder of your punk. Wilma Lord disappeared. Suppose she died in this house. Waring would have the body what? Buried? Burned? Either way, no more Wilma Lord. The cops would spend the next century looking for her. The case would be closed.
Oh, no.
Also, John Waring wouldn't have to marry her. He'd be rid of a witness against him. What he had in mind for you, Otis, I wouldn't know. But he had something in mind. Then he'd be free. He could go on being philanthropic.
It's childish melodrama.
Murder's melodrama, only it's not childish. Mr. Waring, when I walked in here, you asked me if I was a reporter. The gag being you'd never seen me, heard of me before. But a little later on, you said something about a confidential investigator not being a gentleman.
He must have followed me, too.
You said Wilma Lord had kept her appointment with me. How did you know? If she told you, you wouldn't have confused me with a reporter. If she didn't...
Wait a minute. He was checking on her because he was planning to get rid of her.
But your boy Jimmy spotted him on the third floor where my office is. Nobody else would have had any motive for killing him. Waring had to because it tipped his hand about his plan for the girl.
Nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
Then suppose you drink this, huh?
I detest creme de menthe.
Drink it, Waring.
I shall leave now. I find this highly
I
distasteful.
said drink it.
You're being a fool. A fool.
Had to be done.
Done. The reason I knew the drink was poisoned. Take a sniff at it, Otis.
Don't bother.
A deep sniff. So sorry. Got it in your eyes. Thanks for the gun.
You...
Mustn't lose your temper. Waring killed Jimmy. Sure. But you had to kill Waring, didn't you? If you'd turned him over to the cops, he'd have blabbed. The Crime Commission.
Beeper!
Beeper? You know something, Otis? You must be a sinking ship. That was it. All wound up, I went home, I slept. The next day, I was back on the third floor, being lonely.
How do you lock this door?
There's a thing underneath the doorknob. Oh, you remembered. Somebody following you again?
No. I just don't want to be interrupted.
At what?
Thanking you. I don't have any money. I'm not marrying a rich man anymore. But I don't think you'll mind.
Oh. I always believe a client. Good night, folks. See you next week.
You have been listening to William Gargan in another exciting transcribed mystery drama from the adventures of Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Tonight's story, The Case of the Borrowed Knife, was written by Lou Vittes. Next week, it's an exciting story titled Dead on Arrival, about which Barrie Craig has this to say.
Next week, I devote my time to a bashful blonde, an escaped lunatic, and a stone-cold corpse. And, brother, is it murder? See you next week, folks.
Featured in the role of Wilma was Elspeth Eric. Barrie Craig, starring William Gargan, is under the direction of Hyman Brown. This is Don Pardo speaking.
It's the Silver Jubilee on NBC. This Sunday night, be sure to hear The Big Show with a full 90 minutes of outstanding entertainment. This Sunday, The Big Show will present such stars as Sophie Tucker, Morton Downey, Ann Sheridan, Jerry Lester, and your glamorous, unpredictable hostess, Tallulah Bankhead. The Big Show brings you a sparkling program presenting drama, comedy, music, everything to provide you with the biggest show in radio. Yes, for people in the know, Sunday means The Big Show on NBC. Then later Sunday night, Theater Guild on the Air presents Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton, starring lovely Claudette Colbert and MacDonald Carey. Yes, there's 60 minutes of top-flight drama coming your way this Sunday as Theater Guild on the Air brings you Age of Innocence. And for photos as well as feature articles on your favorite NBC stars, be sure to buy the current NBC Silver Jubilee issue of Radio TV Mirror magazine. This Sunday, hear the best, hear The Big Show, and Theater Guild on the Air, both on this, your NBC station.
Welcome back. I love this episode because of the descriptions of Barrie Craig and his character. It almost makes me, want to have played this one first, because the descriptions of the character were so spot on and well thought out, as was Lieutenant Rogers' description, if somewhat less flattering. So some good self-awareness and nice trip into our detective's head. Well, we turn to listener comments and feedback. And this comment comes from Thelma, who says, I've been listening to your Dragnet show and I love it. I got caught up on all of them and enjoy the weekly show. I was looking at your great detective shows. I did the RSS subscription on top and put it into my juice feeder. About 10 shows came up. I then went to your archives and went to 2009 and clicked on the RSS link in the show notes. When I put that one in juice, there were hundreds more shows. Are there 2 different feeds for you? Will I get 2 different shows from these feeds? Thanks, and keep up the great work. Well, I wasn't quite sure about the feed reader, but the feed that is on the top of the website is the one I encourage folks to use. We have set up category feeds for each specific show, and that is available to people on the iTunes. If you do a search for Great Detectives of Old Time Radio, you'll have a lot of programs come up because we've created a special feed for all of the individual shows we did, because our main feed can actually only hold 200 episodes. And so I want to make sure people are able to enjoy the past shows. Like most of the Box 13 and Jeff Regan has already disappeared off the main feed. So if you're new to the program, in particular if you've got iTunes, you can just find that. I've been meaning to add buttons to each of the archive pages so you can listen to all the shows for a particular series through iTunes, but I've not gotten around to that quite yet. But we do have all the audio files there, so you can just click and download any show you'd like to, of the ones we've done over at greatdetectives.net in the archive section. Alright, well that'll do it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with Rogues Gallery. Well, before we get started, I do want to encourage you to try Audible. Audible is a great service for people who either can't find the time to read because they're constantly on the go, or you've got some eye problems. With Audible, you get one audiobook included in your membership each month, plus you get a 30% discount on additional audiobook purchases. And these include a lot of classics as well as New York Times bestsellers. You can try Audible out for free by going to audibletrial.com/greatdetectives. That's audibletrial.com/greatdetectives. Well, today's episode of Rogues Gallery is called Lovely Little Old Lady, so enjoy.
The F.W. Fitch Company presents Dick Powell as Private Detective Richard Rogue in Rogues Gallery.
This chiseler's got you all fouled up in a murder, baby. You'll fry for it.
Senor Rogue, I don't know anything about a murder.
Tippy killed him. He killed Maxon. Conchita knows nothing about it.
Stop being chumps, will you? You're both in this with me. You helped me frame Rogue for it. With Maxon Khan, I'm the biggest operator in town. All we have to do is kill Rogue, and we got the world by the tail. You'll all go to the chair for it. You can't get away with killing me. I'm going to kill you, Rogue, right now. If you've got anything to say, say it, because here it comes, fall guy. Rogue speaking. This afternoon, I found a little case in my crime gallery that brought back memories. You just heard a little of it. Enough to know that I was framed for murder. I call the story Little Old Lady, and I'll tell you all about it in just a minute. But first, here's Jim Doyle, who's going to tell you men how to get a fast, clean shave without having to scrape and slave.
You bet I am, Dick. Men, the simple, sure way to a comfortable shave is Fitch's No Brush Shaving Cream. The instant you apply this grand cream to your face, the three important shaving ingredients contained in it go to work. They smooth down the flaky top layer of skin and soften up the beard. This makes it easy for your razor to cut whiskers close and clean without nicking or scraping. Among the important ingredients in Fitch's No Brush is a special skin conditioner. This conditioner gently lubricates your skin, protecting it from irritation and burning. After your shave, it gives your skin a cool, refreshed feeling that will linger for hours.
For those who prefer a lather cream, there's Fitch's Brush Cream. It gives a swell, hurry-up lather that stays moist and washes off quickly and easily. It, too, contains the special skin conditioner for sensitive skin.
Ask for either Fitch's Brush or No Brush Shaving Cream. But for a solid comfort shave, be sure it's Fitch, spelled F-I-T-C-H.
Thank you, Jim. And now I'd like to go on with my story.
Okay, here's Dick Powell as Private Detective Richard Rogue in another personally conducted tour through Rogues Gallery.
I was looking at the world through azure-colored glasses that afternoon. I was as low as a centipede's hangnail and just about as irritated. A couple of lush cases I'd been working on had blown up without paying off, and the girl I was madly in love with that week was madly in love with some other guy. I needed some money, I needed a vacation, and I needed a new love interest. When the door to my office opened, and in walked a Latin-type panic who made my heart beat in a rumba rhythm that would have made Cougat sound like Spike Jones. I just sat there, trading my blue thoughts in on a lot of purple ones, while she closed the door behind her and walked toward me.
You are Richard Rogue, the detective?
The celebrated detective, yes. What can I do for you?
I need your help, Senor Rogue.
Okay. What's your name?
Conchita Morales.
Oh, the singer, huh?
That's right. I'm in trouble, Senor Rogue.
You know, I sort of suspected that was why you came to see me. What's your difficulty?
Well, it's hard to explain, but there is a man in this town who is threatening me.
Well, that's not hard to explain. You're the sort of a girl who is liable to be threatened.
What do you mean by that, Senor Rogue?
Well, that you are beautiful and extremely desirable and, well, pardon me, Miss Morales. I shouldn't have said that. I'm just in a kind of an impolite mood today, I guess.
Then you don't really think I am beautiful or desirable?
Don't let that glassy look in my eyes fool you, Conchita. I can see, and what I see pleases me, if you go for understatements.
Then you will help me.
You know, beauty's a wonderful thing, Mexican type, but so is money. My time's for sale.
I have money. I will give you $250 if you will help me.
What do you want me to do?
I want you to get some letters back for me.
Oh? Why?
Because I write them when I'm very young and foolish to a man I think I love. I do not love him. I hate him. I want to marry someone else, that man I love, but I cannot because of these letters.
Oh, here. Slow it down to a gallop, Conchita. I'm getting a little confused. Who has the letters?
Frank Maxon is his name. He's no good. He is what you call a poor loser.
Uh-huh. And who is this man you love at the moment?
Tippy Tyler. We will be married soon.
Oh, you will be married. Well, in that case, let's make this strictly business. What do you want me to do?
I'm having dinner with Frank tonight at the Club Cuba. I want you to meet us there. I want you to tell him he must give me back my letters. If he knows that I have employed you to help me, he will give them up. He is without courage. Don't see how I ever think I was in love with him.
Frank is considered quite a ladies' man, or was, before you went up on that income tax rap a couple of years ago. Yeah, I understand the boys in his mob are giving him a little trouble since he got out. Where's that $250 you mentioned a while ago?
It is here. Just a moment.
That's a retainer. If the case gets tough, it's going to cost you plenty more, Conchita. You know that?
I do not care. I must have these letters. Here is $250.
Thank you. And now, what time do I meet you at the Club Cuba?
Be there at 9. And I'm warning you, Mr. Rogue. Come prepared for trouble. Oh, hello, Senor Rogue. You are late.
Sorry, I was held up in traffic. Oh, hello, Frank.
Well, what are you doing here, Rogue?
Conchita invited me.
Sit down, please.
Thank you.
What is this, a surprise party on me, Conchita?
Mr. Rogue is working for me, Frank.
Yep. I came down to help Conchita recover some letters from you. How about it?
Nice of you to be interested, Rogue, but Conchita and I can take care of our own affairs without any outside assistance. Goodbye, Rogue.
No, I like it here. Where are the letters, Frank?
You bore me, Mr. Rogue. I wish you'd leave.
Make him give them to you, Richie Rogue.
I want those letters, Frank. You ever hear of blackmail?
I'm not blackmailing anybody. Those letters are mine. They came to me through the mail. If I want to keep them, I will.
But you're threatening me with them. That is illegal, isn't it, Mr. Rogue?
Sure. It's especially illegal for a guy who's out on parole.
Who's going to call the cops in on this deal? You, Conchita?
Mr. Rogue will handle it for me.
Look, sweetheart, it's no go. See? You and I'll just have to work this out our own way.
Hit him, Mr. Rogue. Kill him.
No. Now, there are ways of handling petty larceny pasties like Frank that you never heard of, Conchita. Look, Frank, you know you've got 2 strikes against you. Are you going to play ball with me?
Conchita's mine, and she's going to stay that way, Rogue. She's not getting away from me with your help or any other way. Well, I've asked you 2 or 3 times to get out of here, Rogue. Are you leaving?
No.
I'm sorry about this. I always liked you, Rogue. Oh, Smitty.
Yes, Mr. Maxon?
Will you ask the boys to throw Mr. Rogue out, please?
If your thugs lay a hand on me, I'll break your neck, Maxon.
We'll see. Throw him out, boys.
It occurred to me as I hit the sidewalk with the back of my head, among other things, that Frank owned a piece of the Club Cuba, and that it was a bad place to start a beef with him. I got up piece by piece, counted my arms and legs, and waited a while for Conchita to come out. She didn't. So I felt in my pocket for that $250. It was there. I went home. The next morning, I went to the office and tried all forenoon to get in touch with my Latin-type client at her swank apartment hotel. The Mayflower couldn't locate her. I had a late lunch, and when I got back to the office about 3, there was a little old lady waiting there for me. A lovely little old lady, with rosy cheeks and twinkling eyes, with a lot of laugh crinkles in the corners of them.
Mr. Rogue?
That's right. You waiting to see me?
Oh, yes, I was. I've been waiting for quite a while, Mr. Rogue. I just had to see you.
Oh, I'll have a chair. Don't tell me you're in trouble.
No. Oh, yes, Mr. Rogue, I am. I'm in trouble because my son is...
Oh? Tell me about it.
Well, there isn't really very much to tell, Mr. Rogue. I know so little about what Norman has been doing. He's always been a little wild, but a few weeks ago he quit his job. And he's had much more money than he ever had before. I know that he's been doing something wrong, Mr. Rogue.
Well, now, Mrs.
Stam.
Mrs. Stam, have you tried talking with him? And
I haven't told you the worst yet, Mr. Rogue.
No?
Last night he came home for the first time in 10 days. Oh, I've just been worried to death about him. And when he came in last night, he was so pale. And I tried to talk with him, but he went right to his room.
Yeah?
He called me after a while, and I went in to see him. And, oh, Mr. Rogue, he'd been shot through the shoulder. He was bleeding badly.
Oh, I see.
I asked him to let me call a doctor, and he wouldn't. I know that he'd been shot while he was breaking some law. I took care of him as well as I could, and I think he's going to be all right. I want you to come and talk with Norman tonight, Mr. Rogue.
Well, Mrs. Stam, I'm working on another case right now.
If you just come out and talk with him, you could advise him what to do. He won't pay any attention to me, and I have to get him straightened out, Mr. Rogue. I have a little money, and...
Where do you live?
In the southwest part of town, at 2673 Spring Lane. Would you come out with me and talk with Norman? I'll pay you for your time, Mr. Rogue.
I'll go with you, Mrs. Stam.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, that's perfect all right, but please don't plan on me performing any miracles. If your son was shot during a robbery, he's going to have to go to jail. You know that, don't you?
Oh, yes, I know. I only want him to do what's right, Mr. Rogue. I don't want him to do anything foolish.
No, of course you don't. You have a car?
No,
Well, we'll take mine. Come on. Well, you certainly have plenty of privacy out here, Mrs. Stam.
Yes, it's lonesome. But my husband bought it many years ago. He thought then that it would build up out here, but it hasn't.
Did your son know you were coming in to see me?
Oh, no, I didn't tell him. He's right here in the front bedroom, Mr. Rogue. Please try to understand Norman, Mr. Rogue. He's a very sensitive boy.
Oh, all right. I'll take it easy with him.
He's gone!
There was the bed with blood on the sheets where a man's shoulder would have been lying. There was no note. No sign of the wounded boy I'd made the trip to see. The little old lady was almost hysterical. I finally got her calmed down. She made some tea, offered me a cup.
I should never have gone away and left him. I should have known better. He was frightened, Mr. Rogue.
Now, drink your tea, Mrs. Stam. Don't cry. Don't worry. I'll take care of everything for you. We'll find him.
You will help me, won't you, Mr. Rogue?
Oh, of course.
Please drink your tea. Don't you like it?
I love it, yes. It's, it is a little bitter.
It's a special kind my oldest boy sent me from China.
Well, I'm feeling a little woozy.
You are? Well, that's right. That's the way it should be.
You poisoned me,
That's right, Mr. Rogue. I did.
My body dissolved before it hit the floor, and a warm breeze wafted me upwards, gently, like a spark out of a chimney. I was drowsy and happy when I hit cloud number 8. I was at peace with the world until I heard that nail file laugh of my alter ego.
Well, Rogie, that little old lady kind of put you away, didn't she?
Oh, shut up. Let me sleep, midget.
Don't you think you better get downstairs and see what's going on?
Why?
Oh, there must be some reason why Mrs. Stam, if that's her name, gave you those knockout drops. Look at you, knocked out by Lavender and old Mickey's. Bright boy.
Why do you suppose she did it, Pest?
Oh, I don't know, but you'd better find out. You're in a jam, Rogie.
Oh, I'll bet that Conchita dame fits in here someplace.
Get out of here, Rogie.
Okay. Don't push, Ugor. You're my friend.
Going down. Going down. Next stop, planet Earth. Last car just leaving.
Cut it out. Oh, look out. Oh, here I go again.
Goodbye, Rogie.
I came to in my car. My gun was gone. I looked for my money. It was still there. I looked at my watch. It was 9:30. I drove to my office, opened the door, and stopped dead in my tracks. There was a dead man lying there in the middle of the floor. He'd been shot at close range through the head. My gun was lying a foot from the body. The gun that had been stolen from me while I was knocked out. I closed the door and leaned up against the wall to think. I was still leaning there when the door opened.
Hello, Rogue. Who's your friend?
Hello, Lieutenant Urban. What are you doing here?
I got a call telling me you just killed a man.
Yeah? Well, that's Frank Maxon, that defunct character there.
Your gun?
Yeah.
Looks to me like we're going to have to hold you, Rogue. For murder.
We'll return to our story in just a moment. But first, we'd like to remind you that in Marie Antoinette's time, hairdressers stood on ladders in order to dress towering hairstyles. Today, the trend in hair fashions is simplicity, a style that requires shining, immaculately clean hair. Fitch's saponified coconut oil shampoo is ideal to keep your hair looking its loveliest at all times. Made from pure vegetable and coconut oils, it protects the hair from drying and becoming harsh no matter how often you shampoo it. Just a little Fitch's saponified shampoo makes swirls of cleansing, fragrant lather that whisk away every bit of dust and dirt. And the special patented rinsing agent contained in the shampoo ensures the removal of all lather and other particles from the hair, so you won't have to bother with additional after rinses. For a shampoo that assures praise-winning results every time, use Fitch's saponified shampoo. You can have a professional application at your beauty or barber shop, or ask for an economical bottle at your drug or toilet goods counter. Fitch's saponified coconut oil shampoo, 6 full ounces, 50 cents. Now back to Rogue's Gallery. Dick Powell, as Richard Rogue, is telling our story.
What started out to be a very quiet day brought Conchita Morales, the Mexican singer, to my office. She wanted to get some letters back from a Frank Maxon. I went with her to meet Maxon in a cafe, and we had a brawl in front of plenty of witnesses. After I made a few threats, I got thrown out. Next morning, I tried to find Conchita and couldn't. That afternoon, a little old lady came to my office, told me her son Norman Stam had been wounded in a holdup, and I went with her to her home. When we got there, her son was gone. I drank a cup of tea, which was sweetened with knockout drops, and, I woke up in my car, drove to my office, and walked in to find Maxon, the man I'd threatened, shot to death with my gun. While I was standing there wondering what to do next, Lieutenant Urban of Homicide walked in.
Looks like we're going to have to hold you, Rogue. For murder.
Oh, I didn't kill him.
You threatened him in a cafe last night. Plenty of people heard you.
Where do you get all your information?
The little bird that told me he was dead. That you'd killed him.
Oh, but I just got here. I've been gone since about 3:30 this afternoon.
Yeah? Maxon looks like he's been dead since about 7. Where were you at 7?
An old lady came in here this afternoon to see me, and I went out to her home with her.
You mean you've got an alibi?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You either got one or you haven't.
Well, I went out to see this woman's son. He wasn't there when we got there.
So you came back here and killed Maxon. Look, Rogue. Somebody phoned Maxon at 6 o'clock and told him to be here at your office at 7.
How do you know so much?
We've been on the case since 7:30, Rogie. Looks like you went a little too far this time.
Look, Urban, I was doped. I've been out of the picture since about 5:30. And while I was out, somebody lifted my gun.
Rogie, just put yourself in my place. I find the guy you threatened to kill dead in your office, shot with your gun. Yeah. Then instead of an alibi, you give me a fairy story about wicked old witches and knockout drops. Where does this old lady live? This one that kidnapped you?
Out southwest on Spring Lane. Let's go out there and talk to her, Urban. Okay?
Okay, Rogie. We'll just ride in the squad car. Just in case, eh? No lights on. There's nobody home. Think we'll go in, Rogie. As long as you say there's a wounded man in here, I don't have to have a warrant. Try the door.
Oh, well, it's unlocked. Come on.
Turn on the lights.
No, they don't go on. You got your flashlight?
Yeah. Look, Rogie. The furniture's all covered. There's nobody living in this house.
Urban, come over this way. Let's look in this bedroom.
Are you sure you're all right, Rogie?
Sure. Come on, over here.
Well?
Well, there's not even any furniture in this room.
That's right.
But there was a bed with blood-stained sheets.
I'm sorry, Rogie. They seem to have disappeared with the old lady and your alibi. This house hasn't been lived in for months. Why'd you kill him, Rogie?
Look, Urban, you know me better than to think I'd pull a dumb rub out like that in my office.
Yeah, but there are no fingerprints on that gun but yours, Rogie. And he was killed in your office, and you don't have an alibi. What am I supposed to do? I'm a cop. I've got to believe the evidence.
Oh, sure, I can see it that way. Well, I've been framed by an expert.
Have any ideas?
Some vague ones.
Well, I'm going to pull up here and get some cigars in that cigar store. If you're not here when I get back, I'll expect you at headquarters in an hour.
Thanks, Urban.
Good luck, Rogie.
Well, hello, Murphy. How's my favorite house detective?
Oh, hello, Rogue. What are you doing here at the Mayflower, huh?
I want to talk with one of your guests, Flatfoot. Do you owe me any favors?
Maybe. What do you want me to do?
Give me the pass key to Conchita Morales' apartment.
You want me walking the streets?
Now, just give me the pass key. And if you hear any shooting, come up.
What's the deal, Rogue?
A little murder. Is she in? Do you know?
Oh, Conchita isn't in. The old lady's up there, though.
The old lady? Look, Murphy, what old lady? I'm looking for an old lady.
Huh? Oh, you mean Conchita's mother? Yeah, she's...
Conchita's mother? Hey, a little old lady about this high? Eyes with lots of laughs in them?
Yeah.
White hair, plump? That Conchita's mother?
Sure it is. Her name's Shea. So's Conchita's.
Huh?
Her real name's Ellen Shea. She's no Mexican dame.
No kidding. Hey, give me your rod and a pass key. No, don't get up. Please, Mrs. Shea. Just keep your seat.
Oh, Mr. Rogue.
Yeah, surprised to see me?
Yes, I am. A little.
I can understand that, Mrs. Shea. You figured me for a murder rap, didn't you?
Please don't point that gun at me.
For some reason or the other, Mrs. Shea, I don't trust you. No. Where's Conchita, or whatever your daughter's name is, that Latin from Manhattan, that phony Mexican...
I won't have you talking that way about my daughter.
What do you expect me to call her? After the two of you framed me for murder.
Murder? Who said that before? What do you mean?
Are you going to drop that act? Murder, I said. And murder's what you framed me for. Now, sit down. Where's Conchita?
I'm expecting her any moment.
Drop that gun, Rogue.
Oh, Tippy, where have you been? I've been waiting for you to come in. He keeps talking about a murder.
I said drop that gun, Rogue.
And why should I drop the gun?
Because if you don't, I'm going to pull the trigger on this one. And it's resting at the back of your neck. Come on, drop it.
Oh, well. Where did you come from?
I was in the kitchen mixing myself a drink, fortunately.
Tippy Tyler, huh? I suppose you're the man Conchita's in love with at the moment.
That's right. They're going to be married, Mr. Rogue.
In the death house, I hope.
It's wishful thinking, Rogue.
The two of you killed Frank Maxon, didn't you?
Killed him? Killed Mr. Maxon? Oh.
No, Rogue. You did, according to the cops and all the evidence.
You were Frank's right-hand man before he went up, weren't you, Tippy?
Mm-hmm.
You kind of took over while he was gone.
Go on, talk, Rogue. I'm just figuring out what I'm going to do with you.
Oh, Conchita.
Hello, Mama. What are you doing here, Senor Rogue?
He's making things difficult, Angel.
I just dropped in for a little chat about a house out on Spring Lane and a wounded man who wasn't there and a murdered man in my office. That's all. It was a very nice job of framing me, Conchita, Ellen Shea. And you can drop that broken-down accent.
Okay, Mr. Rogue, smart guy. What happened? Who was murdered?
Well, you ought to know. You helped to plan it.
I did not. I don't know what you're talking about.
I've been arranging things for us, Conchita. Frank Maxon is dead. Your mother helped arrange it.
I didn't know what I was doing, Conchita. Honest, I didn't know.
That's a lie, and you know it. You and your daughter are in this thing too far to get out now unless you smart up fast.
There's too much talk going on in here. Maxon's dead. He was found dead in Rogue's office, shot with Rogue's gun. Rogue's as good as burned for it.
Mama, did you kill him?
No, I didn't, Conchita.
Look, sweetheart, everybody heard Rogue threaten Maxon last night. It was our chance to get rid of him.
Conchita, listen to me. This Chisler's got you all fouled up in a murder, baby. You'll fry for it.
I don't know anything about a murder.
Tippy killed him. He killed Maxon. My Conchita knows nothing about it.
Stop being chumps, will you? You're both in this with me. You helped me frame Rogue for it. With Maxon gone, I'm the biggest operator in town. All we have to do is kill Rogue, and we've got the world by the tail.
You'll all go to the chair for it. You can't get away with killing me.
I'm going to kill you, Rogue, right now. If you've got anything to say, say it. Because here it comes, fall guy.
The little old lady picked up my gun and let Tippy have it right between the eyes. He never knew what hit him. The house dick came charging in, and she told him the whole story. Tippy owned that house she took me to. He framed it with the old lady to get me out of the way, giving her some cock-and-bull story about wanting to search my apartment. She pleaded guilty to giving me the knockout drops, but denied, knowing that he was framing me for murder. And as long as she saved my life and gave me an alibi for the time of the murder, I believed her. The judge let her off with a suspended sentence at my request. Conchita was very grateful to me. And when Conchita, she was grateful, oh, the angel she sing. Oh, brother. This is Dick Powell again, ladies and gentlemen. Don't I meet some lovely people in these stories? They love murder like Richard Rogue loves money, and it makes a very happy combination. Ray Buffum wrote the story, Leith Stevens composed and conducted the music, and D. Engelbach produced and directed. But don't forget, you've got a date with us all next Thursday night. We've got a story for you about blackmail, intrigue, and sudden death. We call it Eve and the Apple. So make a date with us, will you? Thanks for listening, and good night, all. Now here's Jim Doyle.
Don't forget to tune in again next Thursday, same time. Oh, and by the way, be sure to see Dick Powell in his newest RKO picture, Cornered, at your local theater soon. And as I was saying, don't forget to tune in again next Thursday, same time, same station, when you will again hear Dick Powell as Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery. Remember, if dandruff is your problem, ask for Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo. Removes dandruff the first time it is used. Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo is the only shampoo whose guarantee to remove dandruff is backed by one of the world's largest insurance companies. This statement can be made by no other shampoo. Ask for Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo at your drug or toilet's good counter, barber, or beauty shop. Fitch is spelled F-I-T-C-H.
Welcome back. Well, I've seen some private detectives get in trouble because of their propensity to follow and believe a pretty young face. But this has to be a first in terms of seeing a private detective get in trouble because of his tendency to listen to and believe little old ladies. This is nice, too, because this, of course, is consistent with what we've heard going all the way back to Blondes Prefer Gentlemen, the first of the Rogues Gallery shows we aired. And Gerald Moore is practically becoming a regular guest villain. Of course, for those of you who are big old-time radio fans, you recognize Gerald Moore as Philip Marlowe. He was in the episode we played last week, House of Fear. But I should note that there was actually another episode in between House of Fear and Lovely Little Old Lady. It was an episode called The Last Race. So maybe he wasn't in that one. But in this case, Gerald Moore, I guess we'll continue to see him regularly as a villain on this series. Well, we'll see if he's on next week on Rogues Gallery. Join us then. And then tomorrow, of course, let George do it. But actually, I got one comment on the Great Detectives page. Dan says, do you play Green Lantern radio anywhere? Well, wait in line to see the Green Lantern with the latest tech of Extreme Digital 3D. Maybe you want to compare with the old tech of radio. Well, thanks so much for the question, Dan. The Green Lantern was not a radio show. The Green Hornet was, as was the Blue Beetle. But unfortunately, no, I would love to hear a Green Lantern radio show myself. Good question, though, Dan. Well, that'll do it for now. Well, before we get started today, I want to encourage you, if you've not already, go over to greatdetectives.net, and every week we post one or two commentaries, articles on old-time radio, classic television, old movies, and even an occasional book review. You can read all about it at greatdetectives.net, and you can also follow it on your Kindle and try it out free for 2 weeks. Well, today's episode of Let George Do It is called The Old Style.
Personal notice, danger's my stock and trade. If the job's too tough for you to handle, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Standard Oil Company of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. The Old Style, another adventure of George Valentine.
Mr. George Valentine, dear sir, my name is Jeremiah Stark. Perhaps you've heard it in connection with crime, with the study of crime, that is. I am, by vocation, an antiquarian, the owner of a modest curio shop on South Lane. But by avocation, Mr. Valentine, I've become rather an authority, if I do say so myself, on those desperate and terrifying deeds which men have committed in the past. Mr. Valentine, I've only this morning stumbled into a mystery so intriguing that I am at a complete loss to solve its riddle. Perhaps you can. Or perhaps someone must die. Sincerely, Jeremiah Stark.
Huh. It's certainly a curio shop, all right.
Yeah.
Antique bedsteads, snuff boxes, and old porcelain.
Everything but a Venus with a clock in her stomach.
I don't know, George. There's Diana on a hat rack.
Yeah, the kind of place you buy your relatives presents.
You mean if they happen to be spiders or bats?
Hey, wait a minute, Angel. The stuff on this counter here. Knife, piece of rope, and the stuff in the glass case.
This is the actual Bowie knife that figured so prominently in the Sykes-Jefferson killings in October 1912.
There's a card on each item. 1893, Hangman's Noose.
This broken wine goblet was Exhibit A in the state of Illinois trial in early 1903 of Eric Stockworth.
He killed his wife, you know. She was a dancer.
What's that?
The old Sarah Bernhardt Theater, stage doorman. He died, too, of course, but it was 14 years in the solving.
Well, so you're the authority, huh?
Yes, Mr. Valentine, Jeremiah Stark. Here, let me show you. If you look closely, you can still detect traces of the original blood.
Oh, no, never mind. Thanks.
Fascinating case. In the old style. The grand tradition.
Yes, well, it's quite an exhibit you've got, Mr. Stark.
Just the one counter here for the choicest items. I'm rather discriminating, you know, regarding my hobby. But, of course, alongside of you, Mr. Valentine, after all, murder is your business.
Well, it's not my pleasure, Mr. Stark, so let's have it. What's your problem?
Oh, of course. Well, to begin with, this morning I received an item in the mail. I have no earthly idea who might have sent it, mind you, but, Mr. Valentine, it, too, is in the old style.
What do you mean? What is it?
Here it is. The little box.
Little old-fashioned flowers painted on it. And you have dusted my heart with your dainty smile, made sweet my soul with your own sweet glance. Painted lids of our lives only shield our shy love, so lift them and murmur that I have a chance.
Yeah, it's a little on the sentimental side. But what's in it?
Go on. Open it.
Oh, a music box, of course. It's plain let me call you sweetheart.
All right, so what? So you got a music box in the mail with a little corn painted on top.
Oh, Mr. Valentine, people from all over send me things, send me souvenirs, mementos of death.
Great friends you got.
I have no friends. People send me little items for my collection, my hobby.
But you said in your letter that someone must die. I don't understand what this music box
Now,
has
please. Would anyone send such an item without giving their name, with no note, with only a crudely printed address?
Well, now I grant
And
you.
Mr. Valentine, you have seen for yourself every other item I have bears a tag with a date. The historical date of each separate murder. Well, look here. Here is the puzzle. The bottom of the music box. Underneath is a tag. You see it? A tag with a crudely printed date. Just a date, that is all. But the date is tomorrow. Here's the paper it was sent in.
A memento of a murder to come, huh? Well, it's the same printing as the wrapper, all right, isn't it? No name, no indication.
The wrapper was postmarked here in the city, George.
Mr. Valentine, there's only one possible clue I can suggest. A man. A man who betrayed more than the usual interest in this box.
What man? When?
About noon he came in. I remember, big, bulky, wearing a brown overcoat. And he happened to glance at this counter. The man looked at the music box. He examined it. Then he noticed the date. And Mr. Valentine, that man left this store as though he had seen a ghost.
Why didn't you stop him?
I tried to. I was busy with another customer. He was a tall man, graying a bit. Sad-looking man, sensitive.
Had you ever seen him before?
Yes. Just 2 days ago in Joe Murphy's barber shop down the street. Murphy might know his name, though, of course, I don't.
Uh-huh.
You know, Mr. Valentine, I had a peculiar impression of this happening before. When I read the poem on the music box, it struck me as funny, but I don't know why. There's the clue. That's all I remember.
Well, Brooksy, so far it strikes me as crazy.
Why,
But
Mr.
take it easy, Mr. Stark. That doesn't mean I won't go chasing after your one clue. Crazy or not, I don't want any murders to happen tomorrow.
Mr. Elmington, that's his name. Always wears brown overcoats, the best material.
Mm-hmm.
Been coming in here for haircuts the past 10 years. Yes, it's Mr. Elmington. That's the man Stark means.
Hey, hurrying up, will you, Joe? The old lady will chew my ears off.
I'll be with you in just a minute, sir. Yes, Mr. Valentine, that's the man Stark refers to.
Elmington, huh?
Not the usual type in this part of town. He made his wad and moved out. Still faithful to the old barber, that's all.
What else do you know about him, Mr. Murphy? Where could we find him?
Telephone book, probably. He don't talk much. Why?
Well, look, Joe, we're not prying. We're just
He
trying
made
to...
his money manufacturing barrel hoops, if that'll help you any.
A long way from music boxes, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot, Joe. We can find him.
Just a minute, Mr. Valentine.
Joe, for gosh sake.
Be right back. Did you say music box?
Yeah. A particular music box. Plays Let Me Call You Sweetheart. Has a poem on top.
Yes, of course it does.
You mean you saw it down there in Mr. Stark's curio shop, too?
No, but I know it. The music box belongs to Miss Castor.
What? Who's Miss Castor?
My manicurist, Mr. Valentine. Emily Castor. A very beautiful young girl, a real lady.
Huh? And, George, how did it get to...
You know,
What's the matter?
I thought you were in here for something serious. Yes. And that's when Jeremiah Stark noticed Mr. Elmington in my shop here a couple of days ago. A music box. Sure.
All right, clear this up, will you, Buster? What's the gag?
Well, you saw it, didn't you? That's when Miss Castor got it a couple of days ago. Delivery boy brought it to her here. She'd no idea who sent it, but I remember she was manicuring Elmington's nails at the time. A sallow-faced man was waiting. Helped her open the package. Got a big kick out of it. Jeremiah Stark, he was under the towel half asleep.
George, Mr. Stark said he had the impression of it happening before, of there being something funny about the poem, and if he was half asleep...
Of course it's funny, don't you think so? You'd have dusted my heart with your dainty smile, made sweet my soul with your own sweet glance. Miss Castor, she nearly died of laughing. They all did. Oh, my sweet soul, she said. What corn, she said. On whose foot, I said. That killed them. I got the biggest laugh of all. Well, what's the matter? What's serious about it?
Joe, I really don't know.
Just a thing somebody sent her for a gag. On whose foot, I said. Sure, I got the biggest laugh of all.
Yeah, Buster. But how did the music box get back into the mail and over to Stark's place? What did she do with it?
Huh? Well, I figured she just threw it in the first cornfield.
Well, where is she? Where is Emily Castor now?
Well, there you got me. Just out having fun, I figured.
What do you mean?
Well, she hasn't been to work all day. You don't think there's anything wrong, do you?
Here we are, Angel. Second door is Emily's.
And here's the landlady's key, George. Oh, George.
Yeah. Dead, all right. Stabbed.
It must be he. Brown overcoat. Tall. Gray.
Sure. It's Mr. Elmington's body, all right.
John H. Elmington, wealthy, honest, no enemies. Manufactured barrel hoops. That's for us to jump through, of course.
Just the facts, Lieutenant.
Facts? What facts? We've been at it 3 hours, and what have we got? Hurry up the pictures, will you, boys?
But you said he was married.
And not too happily, which does begin to explain his being killed in the room of a manicurist. I don't know how long this had been going on, but...
How long would it have been going on? Oh, if that isn't just like a man adding 2 and 2 to get 5.
Okay, Mrs. Vaughn.
When I told you already she only seen him on Mondays, and he took her to the races, Mr. Lieutenant. So there. That much I do know. And now, if you think anything goes on at the races but horses, then you're sadly mistaken.
Oh, now, look here. We're really not drawing any conclusions or pointing any fingers either. But as her landlady, you'd know. Emily is a girl who likes to have a good time, isn't she?
If an unhappy man with some money like this, Mr. Elmington, wants to take her to the races sometimes, do you think she's crazy?
Maybe, I don't know. Who's her regular boyfriend?
That's what I mean. She doesn't have many. Only been in town 3 or 4 months. Nobody's steady. She isn't the type.
All right. But who?
Well, there's one man, a little older, sort of nearsighted. Then there's a boy called the Duke. Oh, he's a real live wire. He says the funniest things. But that's all there is, except the occasionals. And I tell you, any girl is crazy if she don't go to the races.
Lieutenant, I've taken the knife. Okay if we move the body off the rug?
Yeah, sure, Doc. Go ahead.
The overcoat's twisted under him. Thought maybe... Yeah, there's something in his pocket. Look out, it'll drop.
George.
Yeah, music box. The tune. Poem on top.
George, it's the same box.
Is it? Angel, things are finally beginning to make sense. What's the time, Johnson?
Huh? 5 minutes to midnight. Why?
Because there's a tag on this box, and it's dated today. And there's been a murder.
Today? But, George...
I know, Angel. The other tag on Stark's box was tomorrow. Well, in a few minutes, it'll be tomorrow. Come on.
Oh, my head. He struck me. The head.
All right, now take it easy, Mr. Stark.
Yeah, this is it, Valentine. An old vase. Must have been smacked down on him from behind.
George.
Yeah, Angel?
George, the first music box is still back there on the counter, and the tag is just the same as it was, too, dated tomorrow.
You mean now it's today, Angel? It's 10 minutes after 12. Stark must have been attacked just after midnight, just a second before we got here. Oh, it's a great case, Johnson, the old-fashioned style.
Huh?
Yeah, in the grand tradition. We're up against a killer who keeps his promises. I wonder how many more music boxes he sent around town.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. When was the last time your car's battery had a drink? One of the biggest reasons automobile batteries fail is simply because of lack of water. That's why it's important to get regular battery check where they specialize in protective service at standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations. They'll make certain that water in the battery is kept at the right level. They'll inspect the battery cables for signs of wear or corrosion, take a hydrometer reading, make sure terminal posts and clamps are clean and tight. Remember, a battery kept in A1 condition helps your car start faster, helps keep lights bright, helps the radio and heater to do their best. So why not ask for a battery check tomorrow? It's another protective service available at independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. And now, back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. A little old-fashioned music box. But the only trouble is there seems to be more than one. And so far, there's been more than one attempt at murder. Mr. Elmington is dead. And the man who started this case, the man whose hobby is collecting mementos of death, has very nearly collected death himself.
Just sitting here making out some bills. That's all I was doing.
Sure, like a sitting duck. And the vase you were hit with, Mr. Stark, was grabbed right off the counter there behind you. If we hadn't come in here so fast after midnight, you'd have been a dead duck.
It was the desk, I think, the roll top.
What's that, Mr. Stark?
The top of the desk here took part of the blow, too, you see. That's what saved me. I was leaning over. I'm nearsighted. Be thankful for your infirmity.
Well, you're all right now.
Yeah, but your head must be soft to start with. Sitting here alone at night when you'd already received a music box.
But it was for my collection. It had nothing to do with me.
You thought it didn't have anything to do with you.
Well, how could it? Why would anyone want to kill me? I have no enemies, no debts, no money to steal.
Don't ask us to make any sense out of it, Mr. Stark. You're the one who likes mysteries and riddles.
Well, I grant you. But I prefer the type that are already solved.
Oh, sure. The old style. All neatly laid away in a glass case with clues and motives.
But this is like some of those cases. The terrifying type, without rhyme or reason. Now, it must have been the same man who attacked us both, Mr. Elmington and me. And yet we have absolutely nothing in common. We've never even been introduced.
You don't have to rub it in. We know we're up against a lunatic. Who else would send music boxes with dates on them?
Wait a minute, Johnson, wait a minute. Maybe it makes both rhyme and reason. At least there's a poem in it. And at least we know now why Elmington acted so funny when he was in the store here today.
Yes, he must have already received his music box. And when he saw the one here with a different date...
Sure, Brooksy. He tore out of here and up to the girl's place to ask questions, maybe. Only he got killed for his trouble. You say you're nearsighted, eh, Mr. Stark?
Well, yes. I need correction in both eyes, but the left one...
She doesn't have any steady boy friends, but there's one called Duke. And one man a little older, sort of nearsighted.
George.
Hey.
I beg your pardon.
Miss Emily Castor. There's something you had in common with Mr. Elmington, isn't it? An interest in the same girl, the manicurist. Well, come on. You are the one the landlady was referring to.
No, Mr. Valentine. I mean, yes, in a way. But you wouldn't exactly call it an interest. I've only escorted her out a few times.
Yeah, it's a pattern, all right. Duke. Come on, who's he?
Duke?
Yes, Duke. He's the other one, isn't he? The other boyfriend?
Oh, really? I don't believe I've ever heard his name.
Well, come on, think, will you? Landlady wasn't any help. What's he look like? What's the rest of his name?
Forget it, Lieutenant. There isn't time.
Isn't time. The girl's good-looking. There's liable to be hundreds of boyfriends.
Johnson, I'll buy. We're up against the crackpot. Sure, fine, Duke. Find everybody. But it's the music boxes we're after. So get every cop in town after Emily Castor.
Sure.
Find the girl and quick. She's the one we know got a music box first. Now, you want to make any bets she's dead?
From
Valentine, do you happen to know, did Emily Castor have her manicure stuff yesterday?
What's that, Johnson?
A pair of manicure scissors, her initials, E.K.
Where'd you find them?
They just turned up in the police department's own Lost and Found.
Oh, excuse me.
Hey, wait a minute. Joe, where are you going so fast?
Mr. Valentine, Miss Brooks, good evening. Well, you see, I was
Never mind, Joe. When did your manicurist lose her scissors?
What?
Her manicure scissors. You know, they had her initials on them.
Yes, I understood, but... Why, I don't remember her losing them.
Uh-huh, so it is a lead, Angel. She didn't lose them until yesterday, the day she disappeared.
Mr. Murphy, did you ever see one of her boyfriends named Duke?
The police have already asked me. I've never pried into her personal life.
Never dated her yourself, huh?
My own employee? I wouldn't presume to. Why? Why do you ask?
Why do we ask anything? For instance, what are you doing out so late, leaving your quarters here in such a hurry?
Well, I was just coming to see you, Mr. Valentine.
Yeah?
I found this left at my door tonight. See? A music box.
All right, Valentine, all right. So everybody's getting one. Maybe you'll get a music box yourself someday.
But how many music boxes are there? And we're not protecting the girl, are we, Johnson? And where's Duke?
We haven't even found him yet. Forget it. There isn't time.
Listen, if you just checked the place the music boxes were made or sold, if we only knew how many there may be in town.
There isn't time. It was your idea. Get in the car. Find the girl, you said. Well, don't get your hopes up, but we found the newsboy who turned in the manicure scissors to Lost and Found. He found them in the lobby of an apartment building.
Well, this is the last chance, top floor.
Any building that hasn't got an elevator.
Ought to have the rent reduced. Probably did 50 years ago.
What a joint. Nobody knows anybody. No janitor. Place hasn't even been swept out since McKinley's election.
At least if Emily dropped the scissors here, maybe she was someplace in the building. Hey, hold it. There's only one door.
One apartment.
Yeah. Yeah. One door with cloth stuffed in the keyhole.
Yeah. On the outside. Cloth stuffed in the crack under the door, too. Put out that cigarette.
Hey, Bud, here goes.
And you're wasting your time. Come on, hit this way. All right.
A man. The body of a man.
Every time we go looking for that dame, what do we find? A dame? Oh, no. Just men. The bodies of men. As if that ain't tough enough. Listen. Just listen to it, will you?
This guy didn't die from gas, Johnson. He was shot.
Shot a long time ago. He's been dead for hours.
Yeah. And he's a young guy. Wears flashy suspenders, a real fancy tie.
Huh? What are you talking about?
Johnson, we have now found the Duke. Lieutenant, come here.
Huh?
And Joe, Mr. Stark, you both stick around. Look at this, Lieutenant. More cloth stuffed around the street window, and the window's nailed shut.
All right, so the murderer planned to turn the gas on this guy Duke and shot him instead.
That's a radiator, friend. This place has steam heat, no gas.
Oh.
Yeah, and this overturned chair. And a bunch of neckties standing by it. Some of them still knotted. Torn. See, look here. Lipstick on one of them.
Hey.
Yeah, someplace around here. Wait a second. Top floor, isn't it? I looked in the closet once, but maybe... Yeah, here we are. It's been banged into place.
Valentine, what in the
Hand me
name of
that
all
chair. No, the one right here. Sure, it's the one she used, and it kicked over. Escape door to the roof, Johnson. It's in all these old buildings.
Hey, look here on their edge. Blood on these splinters. Fresh.
Sure, of course. She just got out of here a few minutes ago.
Lieutenant, what's
Never
going on
mind,
here?
Stark. Brace my leg, Johnson. This trapdoor's heavy. There we are.
Yep.
Okay, come on.
Yep. Boy, it's windy up here.
Yeah. Okay, swing your flashlight.
Hey, beyond that stack. Over there by the edge.
Oh, yeah, there she is. Turn it off. Turn that light off.
Don't touch me. I'll go.
It's her, all right, Mr. Valentine. It's my manicurist, Miss Castor. Only what in the world is she...
Yeah, I know, Joe. Turn the flashlight on your badge, Johnson.
Huh? But come on, let's...
No, stand still. The flashlight on your badge.
She knows me, Mr. Valentine, knows my voice. Miss Castor! Miss Castor!
No, Joe, stand still. You too.
Oh, but that girl
That
over there...
girl over there's so scared she's out of her mind. Stand still, Joe. Yeah, she must have finally clawed her way out here when she heard us coming upstairs to Duke's apartment. Must have thought we were somebody else. The same guy who left her there with Duke's body. Left her tied up in that chair with those neckties.
Mr. Valentine, she's not moving. Maybe
No. She's frozen there, you idiot. Let her keep watching us. Maybe it'll finally sink in we're all right. And if we're lucky, there won't be any more deaths. Any more music boxes.
What do you mean?
I mean, Duke has a sallow face, doesn't he? Pale.
Well, yes, I've noticed as I've shaved him.
So he's the last one. Everybody's accounted for, Elmington. Elmington was getting a manicure. The sallow-faced Duke, he was waiting. And Jeremiah Stark, he was under the towel half asleep.
Well, I know, but...
Everybody who was in your barber shop, Joe, the day the first music box came, to Emily. The night the police were at your place, and you never told them about the music box you said you received. Why not?
Mr. Valentine...
Because that one was Emily's, wasn't it? The first music box, the one that started it all, started you killing people.
But I...
The boys in the barber shop, the boys with more nerve who took her out.
She was a lady. I didn't do those things, Mr. Valentine. I love her.
And she probably never even suspected how you felt until you sent her up here with her scissors and stuff to give Duke a manicure.
That's...
Sure. Who else would she take orders from but her boss? Then you followed along and locked her in until you could finish the other boys.
Oh, that's...
What was the big plan? Were you going to come back here and jump off the building together with her? Big romantic deaths? Only we moved too fast for you.
Mr. Valentine, I'm here, aren't I? I'm here on the roof.
Sure, you're here, Buster.
I'm here, and you're not touching me. And if you grab, I can run. If she sees me coming...
Nobody's going to hurt anybody, Joe.
Stand still, Lieutenant. You won't stop me, not before Emily and I go to our...
Joe, I like you. I wouldn't
Oh,
hurt you.
cut it, Johnson. Let him go. It'll be a big romantic death, and people will laugh their heads off.
What?
Oh, what a sucker, they'll say. What a jerk. It'll be in the newspapers and everyone. Joe, you killed me.
Stop that.
And the poem. I can see it on the front page. Silly little flowers all around it. You have dusted my heart with your dainty smile, made sweet my soul. Oh, my sweet soul, they'll say. That Joe Murphy's a car.
I laughed, didn't I? I laughed at the poem, too.
Sure, because you had to, because you said it. Corn on whose foot, you said, and it killed them. You got the biggest laugh of all, and no wonder. A guy like you dreaming about a blonde manicure.
Stop laughing.
Just a gal, but what a laugh you'll get this time.
Stop laughing, all of you. Stop it, I'll kill you. I'll kill you.
Hey, I got him. Oh, good work, Valentine, getting him sore enough to rush us. The girl, can you see her? She okay?
Yeah, she saw what happened. She's crawling from the edge. Why, that poor kid. She's been near this same abyss for months and never knew it.
George, I wish I'd had a chance to meet Emily Castle.
Oh, she's not your type, Brooksy. Besides, she'll need a week or two in the hospital to get over that scare.
Oh, the poor thing. Hadn't she ever suspected how Joe felt about her?
No, just her boss, that's all. Quiet, polite, didn't talk much. Only the longer she was there, the higher he put her on a pedestal. The crazier his dream got.
And so he finally got up courage and sent her the music box.
Yep. And then she laughed. And the boys laughed. And the dream blew up.
And just because of that, all those murders.
No point trying to explain a guy like Joe, Brooksy. But he happens sometimes. Too much loneliness, too much under his lid.
Oh. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? But she shouldn't have laughed. Well, she shouldn't have. I know some girls like to go out a lot and have a good time and be happy and everything, but, well, she shouldn't have laughed. I mean, listen. You have dusted my heart with your dainty smile, made sweet my soul with your own sweet glance. Now, what's funny about it? What if it is sentimental? Why should people be so self-conscious nowadays about sentimental things?
Well, don't look at me that way. I'm not left.
I'll say you're not.
Oh, the old style, huh? Play that again.
It may be very cold or rainy where you are, but you may be sure your car doesn't mind what the weather's doing so long as you use premium quality Chevron Supreme gasoline. Based on year-round weather records, it's blended for each season and for the West's different altitude and temperature zones. So, to get the best out of your car all winter, and wherever you drive, go on Chevron Supreme gasoline. With the first tank full, you'll notice right away how much better your car performs. Faster starting on cold mornings, smoother pickup in traffic, powerful ping-free performance on hills. You can't buy a better gasoline for today's high-compression engines. Try Chevron Supreme tomorrow. Get it at independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations where they say and mean we take better care of your car. Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard Oil Company of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Robert Daly is starred as George. Let George Do It is written by David Victor and Jackson Gillis and directed by Don Clark. Virginia Gregg appeared as Brooksy. Ken Christie was heard as Lieutenant Johnson. Ed Begley as Joe. Bob Griffin as Stark. And Frank Hale as the landlady. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Dangerous game when you play mind games with a madman. But George comes out all right on this. This episode would have made a lot of sense to be aired right before Valentine's Day on the 13th. However, instead it was aired on February 6th of 1950. So I guess could be considered the pre-Valentine's Day episode. All right, now turning to listener comments and feedback. Rebecca emails in, I'm hoping you can set my mind at ease about something. How did George Valentine meet Claire Brooks? I was sure the first episode had Claire join his sleuthing team with her brother Sonny, because Sonny came with the office and Claire came with Sonny. I recently heard an episode where George and Brooksy refer to meeting at a dance hall. Are there two Brooksies? No, they just changed the story. Because you'll notice after the first few episodes, we don't have anything more with Sonny. They went away from the detective comedy format that they were originally going with even the laugh track there in the 1946 episodes, to a more serious show, where Sonny didn't have a place. And how they handled writing Sonny out of the script, I don't quite know, because we don't have that particular episode, but he was out, and so they went ahead and redefined Brooksy's character so it wouldn't be centered around somebody who wasn't going to be in the series anymore. So it's some continuity issues, but no, there's only one Brooksy. Alright, well, on Podcast Alley, we got a couple very nice votes. Some love this podcast from Pipe Dream, and also from Asher Cat, who says this is the best detective podcast out there. Well, thanks for all your comments and support. We will be back tomorrow with Sherlock Holmes. Before we do get started, I want to let you know about Netflix. Netflix brings a great world of entertainment right to you, and you can choose the type of programming that you want to watch. It's a wide selection of DVDs with nearly 100,000 titles, plus an ever-growing number of Instant Watch titles. On the Instant Watch, you can enjoy classic movies, such as several Charlie Chan films, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and The Third Man starring Orson Welles. There's also some great classic television available, including The Cosby Show, Andy Griffith, The Rockford Files, MacGyver, Mission Impossible, Hawaii Five-0, and Have Gun Will Travel and Wagon Train. You can try Netflix out for free by going to netflix.greatdetectives.net, or if you are one of our Canadian listeners, go to netflixca.greatdetectives.net. Well, today's episode of Sherlock Holmes is called Island of Death.
Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo present the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes, starring Nigel Bruce as Dr. Watson and Tom Conway as Sherlock Holmes. Well, once again, it's Monday night and time to call on our good friend and host, Dr. Watson. I'm sure he's waiting for us in his study, so let's join him, shall we? Good evening, Dr. Watson.
There you are, Mr. Bell. I was just having a glass of extremely mellow port. Perhaps you'd care to join me.
Thank you, Dr. Watson. You're always the perfect host, just as you are the perfect storyteller.
You flatter me, my boy, though I must confess that the ingredients which make up tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure are so strangely assorted that even an old gentleman like myself can hardly fail to make it an exciting yarn.
And just what are the ingredients in tonight's story, Dr. Watson?
Well, let me see. Take an almost deserted island set deep in a Scottish loch. Sprinkle it generously with the following assorted selections of humanity. 1 measure of evil scientist, a faint wisp of human skeleton, a considerable pinch of fat lady, a handful of professional contortionist, and a dash of midget. Agitate these ingredients well, then add to the mixture a detective by the name of Sherlock Holmes and a certain doctor with the name of Watson. Season generously with fear, danger, and sudden death. And you have the recipe for the story I call The Island of Death.
Dr. Watson, you're beginning to make the hackles rise in the back of my neck.
Indeed, then, since hackle means hair, I think perhaps you'd better have your word with our listeners before I begin my story.
Yes, I will. Men, if you want to be a success in life, if you want to look like a success in life, remember that well-groomed hair means a lot to a man's appearance. I've heard so many men complain lately that the hairdressing they use is too greasy or too highly perfumed, that it leaves a sticky and flaky residue on the hair. That's why I urge you to try Kreml Hair Tonic. This highly specialized hair tonic has just enough light oil to keep hair handsomely groomed, every hair in place, with a rich, healthy-looking luster. And it gives hair such a natural, well-groomed appearance. Yet Kreml never leaves hair looking or feeling greasy or sticky. This is because Kreml contains a special combination of hair grooming ingredients which is found in no other hair tonic. After you apply Kreml, just run your hand over your hair. Notice how delightfully clean your hair feels. So tempting for the ladies to touch. Notice how no greasy film comes off on your hand or hatband. Kreml always gives hair such a handsome, clean-cut look, as if you just combed it. And it keeps it that way all day long. Kreml, Kreml Hair Tonic. Now, Dr. Watson, how about the new Sherlock Holmes story, The Island of Death?
Well, Mr. Bell, as I told you, most of that exciting adventure took place on a tiny island in the Scottish Lake District. However, it began innocuously enough, as so many of our adventures began, in our rooms at Baker Street. It was on a stormy September evening, and Holmes and I were seated on either side of our fireplace. I remember after dinner that he began to analyze the old cliché that truth is indeed stranger than fiction. I can almost hear him now as he said,
"My dear Watson, the true picture of the criminal world is stranger than anything which the mind of man could invent."
Oh, I'm not sure that I agree with you, Holmes. The police reports and the papers are usually quite undistinguished and dull.
True, old chap, but that's the fault of the reporters. Depend upon it, Watson, there's nothing so unnatural as the commonplace.
Oh, let's put it to a practical test. I pick up the evening paper. Here is the first heading upon which I come. A husband's cruelty to his wife. Now, there's half a column of print, and I bet you that without reading it, I can tell you the gist of the trouble.
I accept your bet, Watson. Give me your deduction.
Oh, it's not very hard. There is, of course, the other woman. The extra drink, the push, the blow, the bruise, and the sympathetic sister or landlady. The crudest of writers could invent nothing more crude.
Your example is an unfortunate one for your argument, old fellow.
Very fortunate.
The article to which you refer is the Dundas separation case. The husband was a teetotaler. There was no other woman, and the conduct complained of was that he had drifted into the unfortunate habit of winding up every meal by taking out his false teeth and hurling them at his wife. An action which I think you will agree is not likely to occur to the imagination of the average storyteller.
Hurling false teeth are absolutely fantastic.
Quite.
What else can that be? You expecting a visitor?
Yes, Watson, I am. And he might well prove a client who will point out the moral of our little discussion.
Oh, what makes you say that?
The gentleman calling on me is a distinctly colorful personality by the name of Stephen Singer. He's nearly 7 feet tall, and yet he weighs under 8 stone. A card from him this morning informed me of his intention of calling here at 7 o'clock tonight.
You said that he weighs under 8 stone. That's only 130 pounds. He must be a human skeleton.
That was the unfortunate title applied to him at the circus sideshow at which I first met him.
Good Scott, circus freaks here in Baker Street. Huh. Now I've seen everything.
Freak is an unkind and inappropriate word, Watson. Stephen Singer is a fellow human being, and a more than unusually worthy one. In the case of the Bagshot Circus murders, he was good enough to take advantage of his almost unique physical proportion and oblige me by hiding in the barrel of a circus cannon. His evidence was instrumental in sending a diabolical murderer to the gallows. Let him in, will you, Watson?
Yeah, of course. Good evening, Mr. Singer. Come along in, won't you? It's all right, thank you, Mrs. Hudson.
It's good to see you again, Stephen.
Hello, Mr. Holmes. Don't want to make a nuisance of myself, but I did have a little problem, and I thought perhaps you'd help me with it.
Of course, Stephen. Sit down, won't you? By the way, this is my colleague, Dr. Watson.
How do you do, Doctor?
How do you do, Mr. Singer? My friend was just telling me that you once helped him in a murder case.
Oh, that? 'Twas nothing. Just slipped myself into the cannon barrel and heard one or two things I wasn't meant to.
Nevertheless, your help was invaluable, Stephen. I shall be only too happy to do what I can to repay the favor. What's your problem?
Well, perhaps I'm imagining things and perhaps I'm not. But wouldn't you say it was a rum thing if a professor offered me and 3 of my pals from the circus 50 quid apiece to go to some island in Scotland for a week?
Yes, indeed. I should say that's extremely odd.
Can you give me a few more facts?
Well, Mr. Holmes, this professor come to the circus 3 nights ago when we was playing at Stafford at a bow.
What was his name?
Professor McElwraith. Funny-looking cove with a bushy red beard he was.
Indeed. I've heard of the gentleman. I understand that he is something of a rebel in the medical profession. He returned from Vienna recently, where he's been studying under Dr. Freud.
Dr. Freud? Never heard of him.
You will, Watson, you will.
Uh-huh.
He devotes himself to the psychological aspects of the human body. Pray continue with your story, Stephen.
Well, Mr. Holmes, he approached me and 3 of my pals.
And who are those pals?
Well, there was Bill Carew, the major we call him. He's a midget. And there was Belle Brackett, the fat lady. And the third was a bloke who joined the circus 2 days ago. Jeff Walner's his name. I haven't seen his act, but he bills himself as the India Rubber Man. The professor promised us 50 quid apiece, our tickets on the Scotch Express tomorrow morning, and told us he'd have a boat waiting to ferry us out to his island when we got there.
Holmes, there's something devilish going on here. A professor who studies psychology wants 4 people to go to a lonely island. A midget, a contortionist, a fat lady, and the 4th... Oh,
that's all right. I'm used to it, Doctor. The 4th's a human skeleton.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
That's what you were going to say. Now, we all agreed to go up there. We didn't like the bloke, but none of us can turn down 50 quid. But we got to talking after he'd gone. Supposing he's up to doing us a bit of no good. And anyway, he made us sign that paper.
Paper? What paper?
I don't remember it too well, Mr. Holmes, but it did say that if anything was to happen to us, the professor wasn't responsible. That's what started us to talking and worrying after he'd gone. And that's why I've come to you.
I'm glad that you did, Stephen. Did you inform your friends of your decision to come to see me?
No, Mr. Holmes, I didn't. I might have done it if I'd have been sure you wouldn't have laughed at me.
I'm convinced that this is no laughing matter, Stephen. Unless I'm much mistaken, there's devil's work afoot.
Then you'll come up there with us, Mr. Holmes?
Yes. Tomorrow morning, Dr. Watson and I will meet you in Scotland.
Well, the lake looks extremely choppy, Holmes. The boat's quite small. I hope it's not too far to the island. I'm a wretched sailor, you know.
I'm sure it'll be a smooth trip, Watson.
Well, I certainly hope so. Hello? Here comes Singer with the other 3. Great Scott. What strange-looking traveling companions.
Well, since they traveled on an earlier train, I think it's time to have Stephen introduce us. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Mr. Holmes. I'd like you to meet some pals of mine. Dr. Watson, Mr. Holmes, this is Miss Belle Brackett. Careful, bell watcher. Step on the gangplank.
Well, dearie, got to be a strong plank to hold me up. How are you, Mr. Holmes? Dr. Watson?
How do you do? Thank you.
This is Bertolini. Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson.
How do you do, sir? Don't know what you do on the bill, governors, but I can kick the back of my head with both feet at once. Oh, really? Very useful, I should imagine. Providing you're not standing up. What's your act, gentlemen?
Act? Well, we haven't exactly got an act. Just regard us as friends of Stephen's. We thought a little trip to the Highlands might do us good.
Huh. It'll do me £50 worth of good. That's all I know.
Put 50 more pounds on me, dearie, and I'd explode.
And this is Bill Carew, the Major, we call him. And Dr. Watson, and Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
How do you do, Mr. Carew?
Gentlemen, I do hope this isn't going to be a long journey. I'm really rather a poor sailor.
Well, I just said the same thing myself, Mr. Carew.
Oh, call me Major. Everyone calls me Major. I suppose it's incongruous when you consider that I'm only 4'3", but I do like the nickname. Have a cigar.
Cigar? Oh, no, thank you very much.
Well,
Major?
we're all aboard, Mr. Holmes. Might as well get going, I suppose.
Why not, Stephen?
All right, Captain. We're all here. You may as well get started.
Dr. Watson. Yes, Mr. Alden? Do me a favour, will you? Give us a scratch between the shoulder blades. Give you a what? A scratch between the shoulder blades. That's it. As soon as we cross the border, these Scots fleas started to bite on me. Thank you kindly.
A starlit night, Watson, and a spanking breeze. I wonder what adventure lies in store for us. I have a feeling that Professor McIlwraith may not be too glad to see us.
Why did you come here, Holmes? I know who you are and what you do. Why are you so interested in my obscure experiments?
For two reasons, Professor McIlwraith. First, Stephen Singer's a friend of mine, and second, I have an insatiable curiosity, particularly for experiments that require obscurity. I want to know why a student of psychology wishes to isolate 4 malformed humans on a lonely island.
All right, stay. Stay into the devil with you both. You can't leave this island until I give the word. My inquisitive friends. Quiet! Quiet! The 4 of you and my employees for the next few days. 2 of you, Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, are uninvited guests. Professional meddlers, as they assured me. And I've no reason to doubt that assurance.
Holmes, the man's as mad as a hatter.
Quiet, Watson.
Since you're all to be on my island during my experiments, I should like you to study this map and acquaint yourself with the place. Here you'll see are the guest houses, all interconnected by telephones. And I've installed the very latest form of that admirable new device. Now, down this path lies the snake house.
Snakes? I can't bear snakes.
It may not be necessary for you to meet them, Miss Brackett. Of course, I do use them in my experiments.
Ow!
Now, this path over here leads to the haunted watchtower. An interesting edifice, as you will discover. 7 enemies of James VI met a most peculiar death there. You'll find that they continue to meet that death quite regularly.
Look here, Professor. I don't like the sound of this.
Nor do I. You tell us what these experiments are that you keep talking about.
With pleasure. I've long known that the malformation of the body of freaks, if you'll forgive the expression, is caused by glandular deficiencies and imbalances. My studies have convinced me that these same glandular defects produce psychological alterations. For instance, you, Miss Brackett, weigh 4 times as much as you, Mr. Singer. It'll be interesting to see how differently each of you reacts to the same stimuli.
What do you think we are? Guinea pigs?
You talk of applying different stimuli to these people, Professor McIlwraith. What kind of stimuli do you intend to apply, may I ask?
Every stimulus that the men and resources of this island will enable me to apply. Fear, hunger, desire, envy, hatred. This should prove most illuminating. Most illuminating.
I won't stand for it. We're human beings, not a bunch of animals. That's right. Let's go on.
No, you're right, Belle.
Of course he is. The bloke's balmy. Let's get on the boat and go back.
I quite agree with you, sir. You're absolutely inhuman, Professor.
Mind your own business, you maddling fool. I paid these people to come here, and they're going to stay. You and your friend are more than welcome to leave, however.
No, Professor. I shall make myself personally responsible for seeing that these good people return to the mainland tonight.
That's right.
Indeed. Then you must be an extremely strong swimmer, Mr. Holmes.
What do you mean?
The boat left this island an hour ago. It will not return for 5 days. You fools! You grotesque idiots! You're trapped! So go to your quarters, all of you. Go on! And don't be surprised if I begin my experiments before the night is over.
Well, Holmes, if we are marooned on an island with a madman and 4 members of a circus, I suppose we might as well make the best of it. Oh, dear. I think I'll turn in. What the devil's that?
The telephone.
Wretched instruments. They're just a passing fad. They'll never catch on. You mark my words.
Yes, what is it?
Mr. Holmes, are you in your cottage?
Since I'm obviously at the other end of this wire, yes.
Dr. Watson, is he with you?
Yes, why?
I'm worried, Holmes. A few moments ago, I caught a glimpse of a figure standing near my library window. I'm speaking from there now. I thought it might be you or Dr. Watson. But if it isn't, I'm afraid...
And, well, you might be, if only of your own conscience.
I'm afraid of them, the freaks. They're so angry. They might will...
I'd hardly blame them. If you're frightened for your safety, the best thing to do is to let us all leave here at once. Are you sure it's impossible to summon the boat before 5 days are gone?
Well, no, I did lie about that. I could give a signal in the morning by hoisting a flag on the watchtower. Just a moment. That was a stone dust against my window. I'll be back, Holmes. Don't hang up.
What does that devil want, Holmes?
Sounds distinctly subdued. He's frightened, Watson. He says there's someone lurking outside his window.
Holmes, are you still there?
Yes, Professor. What's wrong?
That figure just standing in the shadows. I can see it from where I'm talking. I can't see the face, but it's... Holmes! It's raising its arm! It's going to... Oh!
I'm afraid it's murder, Watson. Quick, we must get over to the big house as fast as we can.
In just a moment, we'll find out just what happened to Professor McElrath. Every man who takes pride in his appearance should know that handsome, healthy-looking hair needs a hygienic scalp. And when you buy a hair tonic, be sure to get your money's worth. Be sure that you enjoy the extra advantages of Kreml Hair Tonic. This highly specialized hair tonic contains an amazing combination of hair grooming ingredients which is found in no other hair tonic. Kreml keeps dry, stubborn hair neatly in place all day. And it always gives hair such a natural, well-groomed appearance, never sticky or greasy. But men, Kreml does lots more than keep hair looking handsome. Kreml leaves your scalp feeling so alive. At the same time, it removes dandruff flakes, and it's simply great to lubricate a dry scalp. And if you, like so many men, have hair so dry it breaks off and falls when you comb it, Kreml actually helps condition the hair in that it makes it feel softer and more pliable. So men, buy a bottle of Kreml at any drug counter. Ask for an application at your barber shop. Let Kreml help keep your scalp hygienic, your hair always looking its very best. Kreml, Kreml Hair Tonic. Well, Dr. Watson, when you got over to the big house, did you find Professor McElrath was dead?
Yes, Mr. Bell. A quick examination of his crumpled body told me that he was beyond mortal aid. Holmes lost no time in examining that room of death.
This crime isn't very hard to reconstruct, Watson. The dead man was standing here as he spoke his last words to me on this telephone.
Yes, and the window is beside the instrument. The glass in one pane is shattered.
Yes, at a height of approximately 5 feet. The professor was shot in the temple. He was about 6 feet tall. The line from his wound through the broken pane would indicate that the killer stood out there in the rose garden.
What's up, Mr. Holmes?
Yes, we heard a shot. Anyone get hurt, dearie?
Yes, I'm afraid they did. Professor McElrath has just been murdered.
Murdered? Well, can't say I'm sorry.
Perhaps not, Major, but the fact remains that his killer must be brought to justice. By the way, only 3 of you are here.
Yes, where's Bert Olney, the contortionist?
I don't know. He went straight to his cottage when we got back from the big house. That's the last I saw of him.
You know, it's a funny thing. I was only half awake, Mr. Holmes, but I thought I heard 2 shots, about 5 minutes apart.
2 shots? And Bert Olney has not appeared? We must go over to his cottage at once.
No, a flesh wound in the back. He was lucky.
Curious. Observe the revolver lying on the floor beside him. The same caliber as the one used to kill the professor.
I see what Bert's done, Mr. Holmes. He killed the professor to save us all.
That's right, Stephen. And then he tried to kill himself because he knew you'd catch him, Mr. Holmes.
That's the way it must have been. Oh, he was a brave man.
An interesting theory.
Yes, but only a theory. Look at the position of the wound. I'll stake my medical reputation that it couldn't possibly have been self-inflicted. Holmes, this has been an attempt at another murder.
More coffee, Watson?
No, thank you, Holmes. I've drunk a blasted gallon and I'm still sleepy.
And I've smoked almost the entire supply of tobacco I brought on this trip, and I'm still very wide awake. I asked questions until well after midnight. And what did I learn?
The servants all alibi each other.
Precisely. And that of our party of four, no one is able to provide an alibi for the other.
So that it must be one of them. As ill-assorted a group of suspects as we ever met.
Yes. It's a strange business. Why the attack on Olney? The professor, yes, that's quite understandable. But why Olney? What singled him out from the others?
Well, I don't know. He's a contortionist, but he's perfectly normal-looking. He doesn't seem like a freak.
Of course. That's it. Thank you, Watson. You've given me the other end of the thread.
Oh, have I?
Round up the others and bring them to the haunted tower. Dawn is beginning to break, but before we hang that signal for rescue, I shall find the answer to this bizarre problem. Before we fix this signal flag, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to warn you that as soon as we reach land, I shall turn Professor McElwraith's murderer over to the authorities.
Let it go, Mr. Holmes. Whoever it was did us all a good turn. Let's forget it.
I'm afraid that murder is not a matter to be forgotten, Major.
But surely you haven't forgotten the attempt on your own life, Mr. Olney.
I feel nearly as good as new, Governor. I think the Major's right. Let's forget it.
No, Mr. Olney. Not even on your request. Because the whole case centers around you.
Who, me?
Last night, while the murderer was standing outside his window, the professor telephoned me. He wanted to know if both Dr. Watson and I were in our cottage. The implication is obvious.
You mean that the mysterious figure he'd seen resembled us in build?
Precisely, Watson. Now, Mr. Singer's nearly 7 feet tall. You, Miss Brackett, if you'll forgive me, could hardly be mistaken for us.
You said it, dearie.
Well, no, 'cause the Major, he told us that he's only 4'3". It must have been you, Mr. Olney.
But I got shot too. And you said when you examined me that it was impossible. I could have done it.
Medically impossible for a normal man, but I'd forgotten your profession. You're a contortionist. You could easily have shot yourself at such an angle.
What do you have to say, Mr. Olney?
That I,
Why not admit the truth? You're not a contortionist, are you?
No, Mr. Holmes, I'm not. You see, my twin brother got the bit for this here job, but he had another engagement. And since the professor was so particular about the date, my brother told me to come here and we'd split the fee.
But how did you know that he wasn't a contortionist, Holmes?
You should remember, Watson.
Huh?
When we first saw him on the boat, he complained of the Scottish fleas and asked you to scratch between his shoulders.
So he did, yes.
A real contortionist would not have needed your assistance. So your medical verdict still holds good, Watson. Olney could not have shot himself.
But you've ruled the rest of us out, Mr. Holmes.
Not quite, Stephen. The simplest answer is that the mysterious figure that the professor described was disguised.
Disguised?
That theory would be confirmed by the fact that the killer, when he was in the garden, saw the professor standing at the telephone and deliberately attracted his attention by throwing a pebble at the window.
Look here, Mr. Holmes. The sun's well up. I'm tired of all this theory stuff. I'm going to hang the flag on the tower.
Very well, Major.
But, Mr. Holmes, don't keep us on edge like this.
Yes, dearie. You said someone disguised themselves. Now, who was it?
Well, surely the answer is apparent.
Not to me, it ain't.
Could you, Miss Brackett, have reduced your excessive weight to appear the size of a normal man? No. Nor could you, Stephen, have decreased your excessive height. But the Major could have made himself appear taller with improvised stilts.
Then the Major's the only possibly guilty party.
The Major?
Well, I mean, it's hard to believe he done it.
Well, even if he did, I still don't think we ought to turn him in, Mr. Holmes.
Oh, no. Remember, he did it for us, dearie.
Well, he didn't really hurt me when he took that shot at me.
But that's just it, Olney. I might have been tempted if it were only the professor's murder. But he deliberately tried not to murder you, Mr. Olney, but to make it appear that you had killed the professor.
But if he's arrested, there'll be a trial, dearie. And if there's a trial, you know how it'll be. They'll make out it was all because he's a freak. It'll be harder than ever for people to accept us just as people.
Bell's right, Mr. Holmes. It'd be bad for all of us.
I think the Major has thought of that possibility. Look at him up there on the tower.
He's hoisted the flag. Now he's teetering on the edge of the parapet. He's going to... Major! Blimey, he jumped. Must be a couple of 100 feet down there. He doesn't have a chance.
Oh, the poor Major. He done it for us.
Come on, Belle. I'll take you back to the cottage.
I suggest we all return to our quarters and pack. This unhappy tragedy has reached its final conclusion.
What a shocking business.
You're right, Dr. Watson. When I came to you in Baker Street, I never dreamed it would end up like this. One thing I'd like to say, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, Stephen?
I want to thank you, not just for solving the case, but because you treated all of us not as freaks, but as ordinary human beings. Makes a big difference, you know.
I know of only one way to treat people, Stephen, and that is as each person deserves to be treated. If Professor McElwraith had only realized that truth, he would not have paid with his life.
When you girls go out on an important date, you naturally want your hair to appear just as beautiful and lustrous as it can be. So here's a tip from some of the world's most divinely beautiful girls, Powers models. Girls who are famous for their enchantingly lovely silken sheen hair.
We glamour bathe our hair with Kreml shampoo. And I want to state that no other shampoo leaves the hair more sparkling clean. Really, girls, you'll be amazed how Kreml shampoo brings out all your hair's natural gleaming luster. It leaves hair shimmering with brilliant highlights that last for days.
Kreml shampoo is not a cream shampoo, not a soapless shampoo, not a drying detergent. After a Kreml shampoo, the hair fairly radiates natural glossy highlights. Kreml shampoo even has a built-in oil base, which actually helps keep the hair from becoming dry or brittle.
How right you are, Mr. Bell. Kreml shampoo leaves the hair so much softer, silkier, with satin smoothness. The hair holds a wave better, too.
So, ladies, buy a bottle of Kreml shampoo at any drug counter. See how easy it is to have naturally lustrous hair and a vision of shining beauty. Kreml, Kreml shampoo. Now, Dr. Watson, what about next week?
Well, I'll never see it next week. Well, now, next week, I think I'll tell you about another of our encounters with the infamous Professor Moriarty, and how Holmes deduced that an apparently unimportant robbery in a Sussex vicarage was in reality part of a plot that threatened the safety of all England. I call it the strange adventure of the pointless robbery.
Tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure was suggested by an incident in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's story, A Case of Identity. Nigel Bruce appeared through the courtesy of California Pictures. Tom Conway through the permission of Eagle Lion Pictures. The Sherlock Holmes series is produced by Tom McKnight, with original music composed and conducted by Alex Steinert. This is Joseph Bell speaking for Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo, and inviting you to be with us next week at this same time, when Dr. Watson will tell us about the strange adventure of the pointless robbery. America is strong only if her school system is strong. Today, it's overcrowded and inadequate. So support your Parent-Teachers Association. Do all you can to improve conditions in America's schools. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
Welcome back. A surprisingly sensitive episode of Sherlock Holmes And like I've said before, these type of episodes can be tied more directly into the dehumanizing experiments the Nazis did, and how it affected people after the World War II era, and kind of changed their thinking. So we kind of see that at work here. We do have some comments here, first from Jim, who says, Adam just started listening to the podcast. They are great. I really love the Basil Rathbone version of Sherlock Holmes and the Bob Bailey version of Johnny Dollar, although Edmund O'Brien is not bad. Questions. Whatever happened to Petri Wine, the Sherlock Holmes sponsor of 1945 to 46, with Harry Bartell as the announcer? Is your theme song at the beginning of your podcast from any radio show? Keep up the good work, from Jim in Maryland. Well, in answer to your question, Petri Wine was not totally done in the world of radio. After the 45-46 season concluded with Basil Rathbone, they actually went ahead and they sponsored the Casebook of Gregory Hood, which was a summer replacement show over Mutual that became a permanent program when Rathbone opted not to come back. They also were sponsors of a 1949 to 50 series over ABC with Ben Wright as Sherlock Holmes. What happened to Petri is that in 1951, Petri actually stopped making wine, sold their wineries, and just marketed the wine. It appears to have, the particular brand seems to have gone out sometime during the 1980s, though there is another brand of wine that I found while researching this that went by Petri label. I don't think it was actually related. In terms of our opening theme music, that actually comes from the closing theme of Pat Novak for Hire. It's like a 15 or 20 second snippet of a closing theme that runs about 2 minutes. Got a comment here from Jim who says, hello Adam, I enjoy your shows very much. I've been watching the Father Brown series that you mentioned. When will it start broadcasting? Not quite sure on that question. None of the Father Brown TV series can be used, and I'm not sure when or if PBS ever plans on rebroadcasting those. They've been those were from the 1970s. Comments that we really miss the Abbotts, one of the best series that you have aired. If you have something more along those lines, we would love it. My wife and I listen to the daily broadcast every night together. Thanks again for your work, Jim and Janice. Well, thanks so much. In terms of shows like the Abbotts, the closest we have is Mr. and Mrs. North, and that's about it. The couple, there weren't all that many of the couple's detective shows. There were 4 that there's any sort of number. There's a couple of one-shot programs out there. But we definitely have Mr. and Mrs. North on the list, and I plan on listening to It's a Crime, Mr. Collins. The only reason I haven't listened to that series more is just because I like the Abbotts so much and the show borrowed a lot of elements and storytelling, even down to titling the episodes by colors, that I wanted to give some space between me and the Abbotts so I wouldn't be comparing It's a Crime, Mr. Collins too much to the Abbotts. But we like to have a good balance and good mix of all detective programs. And also I'm trying to be careful not to run out of any given type of detective show too quick. And then we have another comment. This one off Podcast Alley. When I have a long drive, I love to listen to old time radio. A good mystery makes the time pass faster. Couldn't agree with you more. Thanks so much for the comments. I appreciate everybody's vote this month on Podcast Alley. This has been our most total number of votes. Encourage you to vote every month at podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. Before we get started, I want to remind you, as you make your travel plans, please remember this simple name, JohnnyDollarAir.com. JohnnyDollarAir.com is powered by Priceline, so you can either take advantage of the name your own price system or choose from several published fares, and rental rates. You can save money, and you also can support the great detectives of old-time radio. So remember, JohnnyDollarAir.com. Well, I hope everybody's going to have a great July. Let's get into today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, the Lucky Costa Matter.
Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, the refreshing, delicious treat that gives you chewing enjoyment, presents for your listening enjoyment Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
Johnny, this is Louise Costa.
Oh, Louise. Say, that's funny. I was thinking of you and Lucky just this morning.
Were you?
Yeah, how are you?
I don't know, Johnny. That's why I called you.
What's the matter, Louise? Something about Lucky?
I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm getting tired of being a detective's wife.
Hey, wait a minute. That doesn't sound like you.
I know, but something's wrong. He's been on a case and he had to go to San Francisco, or at least that's what he told me. I haven't had one word, not even a postcard in a week.
That doesn't sound like Lucky. Maybe he's in trouble.
It's a divorce case, Johnny. Could I talk to you about it? Maybe I'm all wrong, but I'd like to know.
Yeah, sure, Louise. I'll be over in about an hour, if that's all right.
The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum bring you Edmund O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For refreshment while you work, for enjoyment anytime, chew a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. The delicious, long-lasting, real mint flavor of Wrigley's Spearmint cools your mouth and freshens your taste. The good, smooth chewing helps keep you feeling fresh and alert, adds enjoyment to whatever you're doing. So indoors, outdoors, at work or play, enjoy chewing Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Wrigley's Spearmint. Refreshing, delicious.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to New York Police Department, Attention Homicide Bureau. I in no way expect you to honor this statement, but for the sake of convenience, I'll use my regular report form. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Lucky Costa matter. His real name was Frank Costa. I don't know where he'd picked up the Lucky tag, but he'd had it 5 years ago when both of us were on the payroll of one of the big detective agencies. He opened his own office at about the same time I went into insurance. I got to know him and his wife well, but not intimately, and I liked them both. So when she phoned with worry in her voice, I went over to see her. In a way, I wish I hadn't.
Now that you're here, I feel kind of silly and embarrassed.
Well, you don't have to talk about anything you don't want to, Louise. Why don't we go to dinner and a movie and forget the detective racket for a while?
That doesn't work. I've tried it. Johnny, it's not only this week that I haven't heard from you. Lucky's changed.
How?
It's nothing I can explain to you. If you'd seen him every day, you probably wouldn't have noticed anything, but it's something that a wife could see. Thing with his eyes when he didn't always looking at him. Sort of a far away, as if he was thinking of something that I didn't have any business knowing about. You know Lucky's never been like that.
Well, I guess any man keeps secrets when it's his job to.
Well, Lucky never has with me. He didn't need to. As far as his job went, he's always told me that it did him good to come home and talk things over with me. Even things he really wasn't supposed to talk about. It hasn't been that.
You think he's mixed up with another woman, don't you?
It started over a month ago, Johnny. I've been used to Lucky being away. You know that.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to be.
But like I said, I knew when things got different, when it was more than just being away from me.
You sure you aren't imagining things?
I'm not imagining that I haven't heard from him in all this time. That never happened before.
How long has this been going on, this change you speak of?
I tried to remember exactly when I first noticed it. I think it was one night about a month ago. I asked him what he was thinking about, and he sort of came to and said something that I don't remember now.
Did you press it any further?
A couple of times, and then I didn't anymore. Because it made me think he was hiding something from me. I didn't want to think that. I kept telling myself that everything was all right. But now I know it wasn't.
Was he on a case a month ago?
Well, he was tracing some ponies. It doesn't have anything to do with work, Johnny. I know that. He'd traced ponies before. He'd done everything before. It wasn't work.
Well, I don't have a wife's viewpoint, but I know Lucky pretty well. Some things about him I know better than you do. It seems to me that if he was going to go wrong with a woman, he'd have done it a long time ago. We met some, you know.
Yeah, I've heard.
Does his brother still live here in town?
Yes, but I haven't phoned him.
Same address on Broad, wasn't it?
Yeah. Are you going to see him?
Yeah, I thought I might. You want me to check on Lucky, don't you?
I don't know what I want. Yes, I want to find out.
Well, all right. I think his brother is the best place to start. The last time I'd been at the Broad Street address had been for the funeral of the Costa's mother. The house was a few years more beat up than it had been. Some old chicken coop stood empty in the backyard, and Joe, the brother, pulled up in an old car after I'd thumbed the doorbell 3 or 4 times and had started to leave.
I took the wife and kids over to the park so I could have some peace for an hour or so.
Yeah, I almost missed you.
I'm glad you didn't, Johnny. It's been a long time. How've things been going with you?
Fair, Joe. You?
A guy can make a living. But making it go far enough is another story. Hey, come in the house.
Sure, thanks.
I'm working over at Blicker's now. It's a better spot than the old job. Had one raise already and got another one coming up.
Yeah, that sounds good, Joe.
You still doing the same thing?
Yeah, still following people.
You, see much of Lucky anymore?
No, not for 6 months, anyway. As a matter of fact, I came here to talk to you about him.
Yeah? What about him?
Well, I wondered if you'd spoken to him before he left for San Francisco last week.
No. I talked to Lucky for the last time, as far as I'm concerned. That was about a month ago.
What's the matter? Thought you two were okay, that you got along all right.
You're a pretty good friend of his, aren't you, Johnny?
Well, you know how it was. He and I just fell together when we were with the agency. Yeah, we're good friends. Maybe I see him only twice a year, but he's almost the only guy I've held on to.
Did he ever tell you about his first wife?
He was married before?
Yeah. Did he ever tell you about the year and 6 he spent in prison?
Joe, are you serious?
Yeah. That's the way Lucky is. He don't let his friends know anything about him that he don't want them to know. He's always been like that. There's always been 2 sides to Joe. One that you know about and one that you don't.
What about this prison term?
It was grand theft. It was over this girl that he married, his first wife. He stole some furs for her.
How long ago?
12, 15 years, I guess. Well, we're still living in Brooklyn. Lucky was a wild kid when he was 18 or so, and he still got some of it in him.
Who was this woman he married?
Her name was Hazel Mackey, and she called me about getting in touch with Lucky.
Oh? When?
That was about a month ago. That's when him and me had our showdown. I told him he was a dumb cluck if he saw Hazel again. I said, you got a new life now. You're amounting to something. You're married to a nice kid. But I could tell I wasn't getting to him. He was going to see her. I knew that. So I told him if he did, it was the end of him and me, brother or no brother.
You're sure he saw her?
Well, before he left that he would. She had some kind of hold on him back when they were married. And she still got it. What do you want from Lucky, Johnny?
Louise called me. She hasn't heard from him in a week, and she wants to know what goes. He's dropped out of sight.
Sure he has. I knew he would.
Where can I find this Hazel?
New York. She's got an apartment on 82nd.
You got the number?
Yeah. Come on in the other room. I'll get it for you.
This Hazel Mackey?
Yeah. Who are you?
My name is Dollar. I'm a friend of Lucky Costa's.
Oh, come on in.
Thanks. You know where Lucky is?
Not at the moment, no. Who are you?
I told you. He's been missing for a week. His family is worried. I'm looking for him.
He's on a case.
Is he working for you?
Yes.
What kind of a case?
I don't know that it's any of your business. I need a detective, so I hired him. Is that all right?
It would be if he were on the up and up about it, but he isn't. As far as his wife knows, he's in San Francisco on a divorce case.
I can't help what he tells his wife. How did you get here?
His brother told me about you.
I guess his wife doesn't know. I guess that's why he told her he was going to San Francisco.
Do you know where I can reach him?
No, not for a while.
Do you think I ought to send his wife to the police?
I don't see why you should.
I will if I don't find out about the case he's on.
Hey, what's with this pressure stuff?
What's the case?
I needed a bodyguard.
What for?
I was engaged to a guy who was sent to prison. He was there 2 years, and I changed my mind about him. He's out now, and I'm afraid of him.
Who is he?
You know I don't like you. You got a lot of nerve. None of this is any of your business.
I wish you were right, but I've already stuck my neck out and made it my business. So if I don't find out these things from you, I'll find them out from someone else.
Yeah, guess you would. His name is George Myers.
What makes you think he's going to cause you any trouble?
Some of the things he told me when I went to visit him. It's hard to talk sense to a man who's been in prison that long. I tried to tell him how I felt, but he'd blow his top and make a lot of threats.
Where is he now?
I don't know. He's been out a week, and Lucky's trying to get a line on him.
He hasn't contacted you yet?
No, but he will. And when it's over with and we get things straightened out, why, then Lucky can go back to his wife. Now, if you approve, I'd just as soon you'd get out of here.
Well, a few things don't figure. You answered the door buzzer not like a dame that's afraid of someone coming, but I suppose you're right. It's Lucky's business how he earns his money.
I'll tell him you dropped in.
It's up to you. Good night.
So long.
I put off telling his wife for 2 days because I didn't know how and because I didn't think it was up to me to tell her things she never knew about her husband. But on the third morning, it broke. The story made page 1, part 2 of all the New York dailies. The body of ex-convict George Myers had been found the night before. He'd been shot to death by what they called an unknown assailant. I phoned the brother, Joe Costa, and met him outside Bricker's during his lunch hour.
Hi, Johnny. What's up?
Well, maybe the local papers didn't carry it here. This one.
What about it? Who's this Myers?
Friend of Hazel Mackey's. She told me she hired Lucky to bodyguard her against this Myers.
Holy. You mean Lucky killed him?
I don't know, Joe. But it looks bad. Here, read this last paragraph. Myers went to prison on a robbery rap, but the money was never recovered. There's $200,000 floating around, Joe. I can't help wondering if this Mackey woman hadn't her finger on it.
Why do you have to tell me this, Johnny?
Because I couldn't carry it myself. I talked to Hazel. What she told me puts the finger on Lucky. I wanted you to know because I'm going to have to go to the police with it.
This is going to kill Louise. You know that.
What can I do, Joe?
Well, it seems to me you could stop playing hero.
Now, wait, Joe.
You don't have to run to the police. If Lucky did it, let them find out. You don't have to tell
Joe.
them. Not for that no-good Lucky, but
Joe,
for Louise.
Joe, listen to me. If they get to Hazel Mackey and she tells them about talking to me, then what happens? Then I'm in trouble. I can't afford that, Joe. I've got to stay clean with the police.
Sure, stay clean, no matter what it does to Louise. That's the way it is, then.
I didn't ask to get mixed up in it. I didn't tell Louise what I found out about him, but it's out of hand now, Joe, and there's nothing I can do.
Go ahead, then. Go ahead. Maybe some nice fat cop will pat you on the back.
Joe! Joe! A sour racket.
For refreshment while you work, for enjoyment anytime, chew a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. When your mouth feels dry, when you're warm or tired, Wrigley's Spearmint is really refreshing. The lively, full-bodied, real mint flavor cools your mouth, moistens your throat, freshens your taste. And the chewing itself gives you a little lift, helps you feel your best and do your best. So for chewing enjoyment plus pleasant refreshment, chew delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. And now with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we bring you the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
I left Hartford for New York on the 110 that afternoon. When I got there, the later editions reported the usual rounding up of known criminals who were being grilled about the Myers shooting. And the closer I got to the apartment on 82nd Street, the rottener the whole thing looked to me.
Who is... Oh.
Come on, open up.
Hi. What do you want?
Where is he now?
Lucky? I don't know. I told him to give himself up, but he wouldn't.
Did he kill George Myers?
Yes, the stupid idiot.
How did it happen?
Lucky had a room over at the Montclair, and George must have followed me over there.
You went across town so you could be with your bodyguard.
Yes.
And the man you were afraid of followed you.
Yes.
You were either not very bright or not very scared. Go ahead.
Well, about 2 o'clock we came out, and George was waiting in the lobby. He followed us out on the street and started swearing at us. He took a swing at me, and then Lucky tried to stop him. He pulled a gun out of his pocket, and that's when Lucky shot him.
It all sounds very neat.
What do you mean?
Sit down. I've got a theory that I'll try out on you. When I get close, tell me. The $200,000 that never showed up after George Myers' arrest. For a split of that, Lucky agreed to kill him.
You're crazy.
You hire a detective as a bodyguard. Theoretically, he could kill this man you were afraid of and ride out of it on his license and a self-defense plea.
It was self-defense. George pulled a gun.
The police didn't find it. If it was self-defense, why didn't Lucky report it like he should have?
I wanted him to. We came back here and I begged him to phone the police.
What about the $200,000?
I don't know anything about it.
You mean it'll be hard to prove that you do?
I said I don't know.
I take it you haven't phoned the police.
No. I know I should, but I just can't do it to Lucky.
You know I'm going to call them, don't you?
I thought you said you were his friend.
Not that good a friend.
What can they do to me?
Hold you as a material witness while I try to get some proof together that you dragged Lucky into this.
Dragged him into it. I hired him. I told you that. I was afraid of George, and I hired him.
And he killed Myers in line of duty and in self-defense. Why didn't he turn himself in?
I don't know. I wanted him to.
You must have given some reason for not doing it. What did he say?
Well, he said that everything was all ruined now and that he'd rather take a chance on getting away.
Why was it ruined if he killed in self-defense? I've had to do it.
I don't know.
Were you going to help him get away?
We didn't talk about that. He was like a crazy man, pacing the floor. And then he left about 3:30.
Where was he going?
He didn't say.
Was he going to get in touch with you?
Yes. He said he'd try to call.
Well, he won't be here to take the call. I want the police to hear your story. The officer who answered my call was Lieutenant Carl Belder. 2 uniformed men who were with him took Hazel Mackey back to headquarters, and he listened to my theory. We searched the apartment without finding proof of her holding any amount like $200,000. She had a small savings account, a small checking account, and a stub showed that she had paid Lucky Costa a week in advance. We waited the rest of the afternoon for Lucky to call, and he finally did an hour or so after dark.
Go ahead, Dollar. That might be him.
Johnny Dollar.
Who?
This Lucky? This is Johnny Dollar. Don't hang up, Lucky.
Why should I hang up? Hiya, Johnny.
I'm all right, Lucky. How are you?
Fine.
Yeah, I can imagine. What was the matter with you?
I don't have the slightest idea what you're talking about. How about you explaining yourself? What are you doing in my girl's apartment?
She's not lonesome. She's down visiting New York's finest. Why don't you use your head and come on in, Lucky?
You kidding? I like it where I am.
You still figuring on trying to run out?
Sure, it's worth a chance, don't you think, Johnny?
If you killed Myers in self-defense, why don't you play it that way?
Having us called trace, Johnny?
I hoped we wouldn't have to play games like that. I thought if I could talk to you, you'd come to your senses. Can I meet you someplace where we can talk it over?
No, thanks. You're a good guy, Johnny, but I think you might sell me out.
You've already been sold out. What's the matter with you?
You know, if positions were reversed, I'd give you a hand.
I wouldn't ask you to. Anybody gets himself in a mess like you're in shouldn't expect help. Now use your head, Lucky. Let's get this over with.
Sure, I'll meet you in Times Square. New Year's Eve, Johnny.
Lucky? He's gone.
You know him better than I do, but don't you think you pressed him a little too hard? Wouldn't he have believed you if you talked like you were going to help him?
No, he knows me better than me.
Well, it's a tough spot, Dollar. An old friend like that.
Well, he's still in New York. He won't get out now, will he?
Well, everything should be covered by now. Do you know him well enough to guess what he'll try?
I don't think so, because a killer isn't the guy I knew. His clothes are still in the hotel room. I don't think he'll try for them now. He's got about $200 in his pocket. I don't have any idea what he'll try, Lieutenant. I guess all we can do is wait. officer was posted at the apartment, and Lieutenant Belder and I went down to headquarters. Under steady questioning, Hazel Mackey held to her story that she knew nothing about any $200,000, that she'd been afraid of George Myers, that she'd hired a detective in good faith to protect her, and that after Myers had been killed, she had pleaded with Costa to give himself up. It seemed apparent to me then, after having talked with him, that she had her statement well rehearsed and felt that if she stuck to it, there was no way for us to prove anything else. I stayed in New York that night and the next, waiting for something to break. When it came from Hartford. Joe Costa wanted to see me as soon as possible.
Johnny?
Yeah, Joe.
Come on in.
Oh, I got here as fast as I could. How's Louise?
Not very good. Sit down. I'm sorry about blowing up the other day,
It's all right. I didn't blame you. It was a bad time for both of us.
You're right, Johnny. All I could think of then was he's my brother. But now it don't make any difference. He's no better than a rat that you got to trap. There's nothing to do but stop him.
You're right, Joe.
I had to quit my job over him. I couldn't take it the way the boys were looking at me. They wouldn't talk to me.
It'll smooth over. What do you want to talk to me about, Joe? Has he contacted you?
Yeah, he phoned me. He wants for me to give him some money so he can get away.
He needs more than money now. He'll never get out. What'd you tell him?
Well, I told him I didn't have any to give him. And that was the time I knew for sure that you were right about him. So when he asked me again, I told him I'd see what I could do about raising some. I told him to call back tonight. I did that so I could sell him out to you.
It was the right thing to do, no matter what you think. He wouldn't think twice about pulling you into this mess, Joe. And that's what he did. He asked you to be a party to the killing.
Yeah, I know that.
When is he going to call?
Sometime after 7 o'clock.
Does he want you to meet him?
Yeah, that's right. With $200. He's going to tell me where when he calls.
He's still in New York, isn't he?
Yeah, in Manhattan.
You want me to talk to him?
Yeah, if he gives himself up, I kind of figured they might take it easier on him.
It could be. That's a deal, Joe. I'll talk to him. I'd like to see him go in by himself.
Well, want a glass of wine while we wait, Johnny?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
This is some new stuff from my wife's folks. I took her and the kids up to their house to stay till this blows over. You'd think we were all criminals the way people treat us in this town.
The call came in about 8:30. The meeting place was a flat near the Bowery. The time was about 10 the following night. I was there at 5 minutes after. Hi, Lucky.
What's this?
Let me in. Nice place you got. You like it better than a home with a wife?
Shut up. Joe sold me out, huh?
He gave you a break. He didn't call the police.
He send me some money?
No? You think you had any right to ask him to?
I need some dough, Johnny. I'm running short.
What about your girlfriend?
You can shut up about that, too.
A double cross, Lucky, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, double cross. A real good one. I got no beef coming.
You gonna let Hazel get away with it?
Not worth a murder rap to square with her. You know who set up the double cross for her?
Who?
You did, Johnny. You stumbled into this thing and set it up for her.
Maybe she'll send me a gold watch. I saw her 3 days before you killed him, Lucky. If you knew I stumbled in, why didn't you pull out?
She didn't tell me about you until after I killed him.
Oh, that's the way it went.
Yeah. One little thing Hazel forgot. And she hoped it wasn't important. She hadn't wanted to bother me with it. But a friend of mine acted like he was suspicious of what we were doing. All it did was blow the whole thing sky high. I was going to cop a self-defense plea, but you around sniffing out the premeditation, I didn't have a chance.
That's tough, Lucky. I'm sorry it didn't work out for you.
Get off, will you? I came into this with my eyes open. I know what kind of an operator she was. I'm not beefing. There was a chance to make $100,000, so I took the jump, so I lost.
What now, Lucky?
I was going to ask you. You want a drink?
No, thanks.
Won't drink with me, huh?
Not right now, Lucky.
Afraid I'll slip you a Mickey?
I wouldn't put it past you if I was in your way.
You are in my way. Aren't you, John?
Everybody's in your way now, the whole world. You can't make it, Lucky. You won't get out of town.
How much you got says I will.
Start making sense. You've been on the right side of enough of these things to know you're finished right now.
Oh, I'm not.
I want you to get a shirt and tie on, make yourself look halfway human, and go to headquarters with me. They may give you a break if you give yourself up.
David, quit talking about it.
What are you going to do?
I'm not sure now that Joe sold me out. I'm in a bad spot, Johnny. I know that. I'm not ready to quit yet.
Joe didn't sell you out. He wanted to give you a chance to give yourself up just like I do. We're still your friends, Lucky. We can't stand by you if you won't do the right thing.
Then I'll go it alone.
When?
What do you mean by that?
What do you think I'm going to do, Lucky? Sit here with you until you get ready to leave?
I sort of hope you would. It would make it easier if you did.
Well, I can't. I came here to give you a break. I've made my offer. Come with me. Give yourself up.
Oh, I can't do that.
Well, then I'm leaving. I'm telling the first cop I see to come and get you. You're going to put a gun on me, Lucky?
Yeah. I can't let you leave.
Then you'll have to use it. You want me to come up a coward in front of an old friend like you?
I'm sorry, Johnny. You got nothing to lose? You won't get blamed if I get out of here.
I can't let you, Lucky.
I'm not bluffing.
I'll have to see. I'm leaving. I'll ask you once more to go with me.
Don't try it, Johnny. I'll kill you if you start for the door.
That's your privilege, Lucky, because you're already a killer.
Johnny.
Yeah?
I'm telling you, don't. Johnny, I'm telling you. Johnny, I told you.
Well, Dollar?
He won't give up, Lieutenant.
Yeah, we'll take him then.
He's armed and he's drunk. But take it easy on him if you can. He could have killed me, and he didn't. I realize that the confession as set down in this report is worthless as evidence, and as far as proof goes, you are still unable to charge Hazel Mackey for her part of the conspiracy. But after Frank Costa died trying to fight his way out of the flat, I want to suggest that she be picked up again and grilled until she breaks. She's as guilty as he was. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Remember, friends, for refreshment while you work, for enjoyment any time, chew a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. There's lots of lively, real mint flavor in it to cool your mouth, freshen your taste, and sweeten your breath. And chewing Wrigley's Spearmint helps keep you fresh and alert. You feel better, work better, get more fun out of doing things. So indoors, outdoors, at work or play, always keep delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum handy. For refreshment while you work, for enjoyment any time, chew a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, brought to you by Wrigley's Spearmint Gum, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Edmund O'Brien can now be seen starring in the Paramount Pictures production Warpath. Featured in tonight's cast were Virginia Gregg, Gloria Blondell, Hy Averback, Peter Leeds, and Sidney Miller. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum hope you've enjoyed tonight's story of Johnny Dollar and that you're enjoying delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum every day. We invite you to join us next week at this same time when, from Hollywood, Edmund O'Brien returns in another adventure of...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Bob Stevenson speaking. This is the CBS Radio Network.
Welcome back. Well, a kind of downbeat episode to end the week on, but I think pretty well done. There was a lot of complexity here, and perhaps the greatest mystery of all, of the good detective gone bad. I think they did a very good job in kind of illuminating all of the variations in this character. Because on one hand, he did commit murder. He tried to get his brother to become an accessory after the fact. But he didn't shoot Johnny when he had the chance. But I think that the way that it was described, the way that Costa ended up dying, really screams of an attempt at that was successful, of suicide by police. Of course, the episode ends with it seeming like the woman who started it managed to get away with murder. And even Johnny's investigative suggestion of bringing her in and seeing if you might be able to break down her story doesn't seem like it's going to be a too hopeful sign. So overall, a pretty complex and well-told story. I should mention that we did miss an episode. The Morgan Fry matter from August 8th is a lost episode that had Johnny going to Boston, and we'll have another skipped episode for next week's show. Well, now we turn to listener comments and feedback. One says, Adam continues to hold my vote as the best old-time radio detectives podcast out there. And I found Great Detectives by searching for Johnny Dollar, and it introduced Let George Do It and other great detective series. And then I like this one. I love this podcast. I started from the very beginning, and I listen to it in the mornings when I get up to make breakfast. My husband used to make fun of them, but nowadays he sits down and enjoys them with me. Keep them coming at him. They're awesome. Glad you're able to enjoy that with your husband, and hope you have a good breakfast as you're listening to this. Finally, just another simple vote for the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate all of your support this month, as we received well in excess of 120 votes in the month of June. Encourage everyone to vote again in the month of July. A reminder, we also do the Old Time Dragnet podcast, which will be every Saturday. RadioDragnet.com is where you can subscribe. You can also send comments to box13 at greatdetectives.net. Give us a call, 208-991-4783. And be sure to cast your vote for the show every month on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. We'll see you on Monday, July 4th, with an episode of Barrie Craig Confidential Investigator. And then join us next Friday for yours truly, Johnny Dollar. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.